Hey everybody, welcome back to the Gamers Lounge podcast. My name is John Meadows. With me as always is Eric, Nathaniel, and Dennis. How's it going, fellas?
Going good.
Hello, hello.
It's going good.
Going good. Yes, we finally got a chance to get a show in. I wasn't working out. Well, I'm working out of town, but I'm not leaving till tomorrow afternoon. So, not leaving on Sunday afternoon like I usually do. So
Makes a difference.
it does. It makes a huge difference. Let's see. Weather report is 19 degrees. It's colder now than it has been all weekend, and I'm freezing my tuchus off.
It was 68 degrees here today.
You know what it was here last week this time? 80 degrees. And it's 20
Yeah, it's like it was
today.
like-
Jesus, in January?
Yeah.
Very, very warm.
It snowed this weekend, but this week it's supposed to get up to 58. So.
Yeah, good for you guys.
Temperatures dropped off, but not down to 19 or
Yeah,
anything.
it's dropped off crazy here. It's ridiculous.
Maybe 30s. I think the 30s is the lowest we've gotten. So
Yeah,
far.
usually 30s, but that's usually, that's
And that's
really just
overnight.
night.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
It's not
overnight.
during
Yeah.
the day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember those days. I remember being down there and it, being 40 degrees and everybody going, "Oh my gosh, it's cold." It's like, I'm
I
freezing.
mean, that's okay. It's like it'll be super warm, and then like within 5 days, it gives us snow or ice or something random.
Snow or
out.
ice.
We're just like,
40,
ugh.
now it's 22.
Yeah.
It's 20 degrees.
It's definitely
always-
a roller coaster here.
It's always funny weather in North Carolina. It really is.
And they can never figure out what it's going to do. They'll tell you that this is going to be the biggest storm ever in like a decade, and then it'll be like a little bit of flurries or something,
Yep.
and then they'll be like, "Oh, we might get something," or not even like think there's going to be snow at all. And then, "Oh, hey, look, we got a foot of snow."
Yeah.
Like, come on.
But that to them will be the biggest storm of the decade. I mean, when it rains, people are losing their minds. So
Yeah.
forget snow for a second.
That is true. That is true. The whole times when we lived down there, it was like, "Oh, it's going to snow tomorrow. We better call school out," and then it never snows. It's like, don't come into work. Call off school. It's fine. But no.
Yeah, it's like at this point, it's like I felt rain that was more impactful than this. We should have called off for the hurricanes, but
Yeah.
no.
Well, it's January. It's supposed to be cold weather in some places and unpredictable weather in others.
That's right.
It is what it is. So. But okay, that's it for our weather report for the week. So,
I mean, it wouldn't be our podcast if we didn't throw the weather in.
no,
all the time.
we always
Correct.
talk about the weather. Well, we've got such a geographical difference in people. It's like so.
True.
Sometimes you got to talk about the weather. So. But now we will move on to what we've been playing. I'm going to go ahead and start because the only two games I played were Jedi Fallen Order and The Outer Worlds, and I finally beat both of them. So that's all.
Nice.
That's all I've got to say is I finally finished.
What did you think of the end of Jedi Fallen Order?
That's what I want to know.
No spoilers.
And also the end of Outer Worlds, but we'll get to that in a minute.
The end
I
of
don't care. You can spoil it for me.
I don't know. I really liked.
Did it take you by surprise, the surprise at the end, or had it been spoiled for you?
No, it had been spoiled like day one.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, somebody had
Day
posted something online like immediately about it, and I just happened to catch it out of the corner of my eye and went, crap, it'll take me so long to get to the end of this game that, I really like Jedi. I really like Jedi a lot. It was a fun game. It was a cool game. I liked the mechanics. It was almost one of the things I hate about games, and one of the things I hated about Destiny was jump puzzles. I hated jump puzzles in games. And there was a lot of jumping, climbing, puzzling, wall running, and
I mean, it's Respawn. There's gonna be wall running.
and it really it kind of got on my nerves after a while, and especially when you get back on like Dathomir and you'd get done, you'd leave, and then they're like, we got to go back. And it's like, well, good. Maybe I'll just land right where I need to go. Nope, I got to run all the way through the shortcuts to the map, all the way to the other end of the map.
That's some of the stuff I liked about this game the most, though. So it's like different people like or dislike different
Yeah,
things.
I mean, it's a great Star Wars game. It was really cool. I did not care for the ending at all. It felt like about the time that it got started rolling, it was over. I thought when it really got juicy,
Yeah, I could see that.
and then it went boom. So, but I guess
I mean, it
you're gonna
feels
get
like a very
sequel out
good
of it.
chapter one of like a setup of stuff that we've established kind of this first main character, little bits of stuff about the characters around him, and now we can go on another adventure
Right, yeah.
in like 4 or 5 years, whatever they get the game made.
If it was a game that had like a season pass and DLC, I could totally see, the way they ended it. I could totally see here in 3 months. Here's a big, single player DLC patch for it. But I know they're
I
not.
don't
gonna
want that though, because
No.
that'd be too rushed to be good.
Yeah, well, and they're not going to do that with that. They've said there's not going to have any paid DLC, but I could totally see them tacking stuff on the way they ended it. It took me about halfway through the game for me to unsee the main character as the Joker from the Gotham series.
I had trouble with that for a while.
I haven't seen it on
That's
Gotham,
interesting.
so I didn't have that trouble.
Yeah, see,
Yeah,
I had that
that
trouble
way.
bad. It took me.
I'm gonna have to look that up.
It was really hard for me to differentiate him from the Joker because that's the only thing I knew him from.
Is it the same actor then?
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
the exact same actor. So I mean, he
I've
looks
seen
like
him
he
in
sounds like
something
him.
before, but I don't remember what it was. It wasn't something iconic enough that it got in the way. It's just like, oh, that guy's face is familiar.
Yeah, the first planet or two, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is a guy that I can't let it go." And then after I
He's
stepped
gonna be
away
like
and then came
Anakin
back,
until the
and
kid.
yeah, and then when I came back, I'm like, "Okay, I finally gotten past that he was the Joker on the Gotham
Right.
show."
No, he played the part really well. So.
Yeah, he
I'd be
did.
willing to bet there's a mod on PC to like make him look like his character on the Joker.
It would not surprise me. And
Or at least
honestly,
just put the makeup on.
I was going to say they wouldn't have to go very far to make him look like the Joker because they really didn't
Yeah.
do a whole lot of the makeup stuff in the TV show with him. I mean, it was just
No.
him with and then he got disfigured. So really they wouldn't have to do a whole lot. Outer Worlds, I beat it before Christmas, and it was good. It felt like it should have been a longer game. I thought.
Really? I thought it was about perfect for
Yeah,
mine. But
well, I mean, it's
that totally depends on how much of the side stuff you do and which like paths that you branch off, because it can be a lot of different what you choose.
Well, when I got done, when I knew I was getting to the last point of the game, I went back and I looked up all the quests that I'd finished. I looked up a list of all the quests, and then I'd marked off all the ones I'd finished, and then I'd seen how many I needed to finish. But the thing about it was some of them I couldn't go back and finish because of decisions I made. Like I missed a companion because I didn't at the beginning. I chose this thing instead of that, so it cut me off. So I couldn't get the one companion.
Well, which companion did you miss then?
It was the dude that was in the first city that you go to. Somehow I missed
Okay,
him.
so like
Okay.
like the priest type guy
Yeah.
or whatever. I was trying to think of his name and I couldn't think of it. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I,
that one.
I didn't even know it was a thing until I started crossing off.
He was a
quests.
fun companion just because he's kind of that sarcastic, smarmy kind of a character a little bit, and just like thinks he's smarter than everyone. And then like as his story develops, he kind of like that persona breaks down a little bit. But
Yeah.
they all did it. They're all very different, which is good about the game. All the
Right.
companions, they're very different. There's none of them that really felt the same.
I think I only missed like maybe a total of like 10 quests because of 2 decisions I made that cut me off before where I couldn't do them. Once I made this decision, I couldn't go back and
Yeah.
do this. It wasn't a whole lot that I missed, and so I wasn't like,
You would think that, but yeah,
well, yeah, but
depends
it was,
on which ones you missed.
yeah, well, it wasn't enough for me to go back and say I'm going to play it again and go this route to pick up these last couple quests and get these achievements and stuff like that. It wasn't that big a deal, but I was satisfied with the way it ended. It was I liked it because it wasn't 100 hours. I did appreciate that, and it still was a satisfying play through.
I think I want to play through it again at some point and do all the opposite of what I did the first time.
Yeah, and I may eventually do that down the road. Now it's like since I finished Last Jedi or Fallen Order Friday, so it was like Saturday. I was like, I need to play something. I don't know what I want to play. It's like, well, now what do I want to play? Do I want to go play this one? Do I want to play that one? So I haven't decided what I'm going to move to next at this point. I thought maybe I'd go back and finish going through all the areas in Fallen Order, but I was like, I don't know if I will or not, because I can't play the ending again, so it's like, what's the point of going back and getting every little single unlockable thing just to go, I got it. I'm not an achievement hunter, so it's not like, I'm in in a place to get it. And I missed a shipmate in that game too. So
Really?
there was some little, I don't know if he's a robot or an animal thing. I didn't.
Oh, there's like an animal thing that you can get that's not really shipmate. It's just that it hides on your ship and you could see it every once in a while.
Okay.
It's just more. If it were a movie, it would be a short cameo.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, there was a thing.
Yeah.
I was looking through the achievements because for some reason in Xbox my achievements wasn't popping, so it was like, wow, I didn't get any achievement for finishing the game. And then I go back and look through the achievements. I'm like, oh, I did. It just didn't tell me that I got any achievement, which was kind of weird. And then I saw it was like, get all the ship companions. I was like, well, I thought I got all the ship companions, but it's, and they tacked that one on they tacked her on kind of late. It seemed like she should have come in your first playthrough or your first time on a planet than your second time on the planet.
But it doesn't make sense story-wise, though.
Yeah, it was kind of.
That's what they did the best in the game, was telling a good story.
Yeah.
Whereas like the game came second a little bit in places where it's like, okay, we wanted this to be a really good story we're telling, and then if you were pacing it out as a game, you're like, oh well, you would want this person earlier, but that's just not how it goes with like the kind of story they were telling.
The one thing that I noticed in Fallen Order 2 was, and it may have been because I was playing it on easy, I wasn't playing it on normal, because normal was just giving me too much frustration with the boss fights that I couldn't.
Oh man, I was playing on like the second highest difficulty level. Most of the boss fights were fine, except for the last one. Man, but we've already covered that in a previous show.
I couldn't do it. It was just getting too frustrating, and I was like, you know what? I just want to enjoy the story and the gameplay and be done with it. But playing it on that level, you reach a plateau where like all of a sudden there's like a switch that's thrown. It's like, I am unstoppable. It's like, it's like you get about halfway through the game and you're like, okay, that was kind of tough. Even on easy, that was tough. I didn't have it wasn't like I got frustrated, but I died once or twice but then it got to a point where it was just like, yep, now you know all the thing and you got all the cool saber moves and now you can just tear through everything. And it was like, wow, that just upped it really quick. And I'm guessing it's just because of the difficulty that I was playing it on.
You never hit that on the difficulty I was on. Like most of the game was fine. It was just like some spikes in that boss fight, and then one earlier boss fight had a smaller version of that, but it only took me 2 times on that one. The last boss took me many more attempts.
Yeah, it was.
But it makes all the just running through regular enemies a lot more fun because they're never like a Dark Souls. Anything could possibly kill you, except way less of that, like the mainstream version of that.
Right.
Where it's like, okay, you can take them out pretty easily, but they're not just like, boom, you're dead instantly just by looking at them.
The brothers on
balance.
Dathomir were, I couldn't imagine those guys on normal. Those guys were giving me fits on easy. And you could get 2 or 3 of them together, and they would just keep beating the crap out of me. It's just like
they are the harder, probably the hardest, like regular kind of enemy in the game, possibly.
Easy mode it is. I don't want to end up like in control or.
The easiest.
Easier normal would be fine. Like you could try normal and then bump it down.
That's what I would do. I tried normal and then I bumped it down. So
I just know that I was like, okay, well, I like all the Dark Souls games and like difficult action games of other types too. I'll start here.
Well, a lot of times.
By the time I got all the way in, I'm just like, I was too stubborn. I'm like, I'm not going to take it down. I'm too far in.
Not going to turn it down.
There was a couple times that I just tried to pick them off at a distance. We'll just bring them in and stab them once, and I'd be like, okay, that now I don't have 2 of them coming at me at one time. But I mean, I really enjoyed it, and that might be one that down the road, maybe I might end up going back and playing it again sometime in a year or so, just to go, yeah, I need a cool Star Wars game to play. So, but I enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. It's a really fun game. But the other thing that I'd been tinkering with this weekend, we got an M Classic in for review. And I don't know if we talked about it on the show, but I know we talked about it after the show one time. This was the processor thing that I could plug in and run like games through it, and it would systems through it and would like upgrade the graphics and upgrade the resolution and everything like that.
Right.
This thing is amazing. This thing is, it doesn't, if you got 8-bit or 16-bit games, like NES, Super NES, Genesis, things like that, doesn't do much anything. It's like a smoothing filter, which I don't like the smoothing. I like my pixels pixeled. So you know,
Hard
and,
squares.
I mean, it does make it. It will take it from a 480p signal and make it a 1080p signal, which is nice. But with the smoothing on it, I didn't care for the smoothing. I plugged the PlayStation 3 into this just to see what it would do, and I know Dennis and Eric. I sent you guys some pictures on the Slack with it to show you what it looked like. It is like night and day difference with anything with old jaggies on it or anything like that. It was crazy because what it would do is it would take the PlayStation 3 720p signal and make it a 1440p signal, and it would smooth out the edges on it. So not only was it clear, but everything was smooth. And I pulled up NCAA football and was just taking pictures just with my cell phone, which is, you know, it's not the best thing to take a TV screen picture with. But I mean, you could see jaggies, things were blurry, and then the next picture, the numbers were more defined, the legs, the bodies, it was crazy. It even,
I mean, that just comes with the pixel jump from that much. 720
Yeah.
to 1440 is a big jump.
yeah, and it really does. It's really cool with the Switch because what I like about it with the Switch is there's some of those games that'll have a hard line or a jag around it that kind of takes away from it. It smooths all that out and bumps it up to 1440p. So
Have
anything.
you tried it with Astral Chain?
I have not tried it with Astral Chain yet.
Because I remember that
That's-
game. Like, I really like the art style and look of it, but it's got a lot of like very jaggy edges. So they don't have
Edges.
any AA at all, probably, and it
Yeah.
would be my guess.
I haven't had a chance to try it on everything yet.
Yeah.
I want to try it on a couple more games, and I want to try it on the PS4. I'm anxious to see if I turn HDR on the PS4, if it'll still do 1440 and HDR with the PS4 with this thing. I don't know if the HDR will pass through this thing or not. I have no idea. But the one thing that I've done with it, I have a switch, an HDMI switch that does 4K. So anything that does 1080p or above, I plug this into the switch, and then whatever number I'm on, 1 through 5, it'll just automatically bump it up. And there's a little switch on the side. I can turn it off for pass through. The middle is on, and then the bottom one is retro. So it'll be on, but it does a 4:3 ratio. So those things are right. But I do not like this on those kind of retro game systems. They're terrible. I don't like the smoothing feature. If you like smoothing, then it's right up your alley. But
Did you try the N64?
I have not tried the N64 yet.
That's the thing where I would think because those games just. So
I'm gonna
many
guess
of
that
them.
you plug the N64 into this, it's gonna be a nice and crisp, terrible looking polygon
Probably.
graphics.
That is possible.
Well,
Where
and
it's like, ooh,
the
it
thing
looks
is
like
with
edges.
the thing with my N64 too is I have it RGB modded, so it's automatically going to be a little better and a crisper picture anyway. This is just going to enhance it. I tell you, you know what system this thing does the best with besides PS3 is GameCube. It is unbelievable how much better the GameCube games look in this. Because what I've done is with my GameCube, there's an SD, I forget what it's called, SD to something, but it's a little SD card adapter that's like $12. You plug it into the serial port 2 of your GameCube, and then you run the Swiss program with the Action Replay, and you can run homebrew and stuff off of it. Well, the cool thing that you can do is you can rip your games to the SD card, which is awesome because like Skies of Arcadia on GameCube doesn't do progressive scan. It's only in 480i if you have the component cables. Well, with the Swiss boot software, you can force it into progressive scan, which makes it look really, really bad, really, really good. But when you throw this into it and it bumps it up to 480p and takes the jaggies away, it looks like an HD remake of that game. It is unbelievable.
So this is basically, it sounds to me like if you want to like finally, get an HD version of your old, games and do it legally versus emulation, where you can do that stuff through emulation. This is the way to go. It sounds amazing. I want to do.
Yeah, I mean it's $100. It's $100, and I am very, very impressed with it. I have not tried the Saturn yet. Saturn was jaggy out the wazoo, so I'm anxious to see what this looks like on it. But I like how it just puts a nice little crisp sheen on the Switch games. I mean, it's
Did you say? I can't. Unless it went over my head. Did you mention? Did you use it with the Wii at all? The Nintendo
No,
Wii,
I
the
haven't
original.
used it with the Wii.
Because seeing something like Mario Galaxy, I feel like would be just.
I don't have my Wii hooked up, but I do have my Wii U hooked up, so I can play my Wii
Right.
through it, which that makes it 1080p anyway.
It's true. Yeah, true. Yeah.
But this would bump it up to 1440p.
That's right.
So, and I don't have the. Well, I do have component cables for the Wii, so I could hook it up and run it through my RetroTink if I wanted to. So that would bump the resolution up as well. But yeah, I mean, I'm blown away by, I'd seen a lot of videos on online, and a lot of people talking about it, and I just figured it was malarkey, or plus when you watch stuff on YouTube, it's like hard to see the difference because you're usually watching it on your phone or your computer, and it's compressed as crap and everything like that. But yeah, this thing is. That's why I've been trying to take pictures of it with my phone and go, "Hey, look at this!" It's like you could, because I'll sit in the floor and I'll just go click. Okay, it's passed through. Man, it bumped it down to 720, especially PlayStation 3 games. Like, it looks all right. It's not the greatest, but then you flip it on and it bumps it up to 440, and then it's like, oh my gosh, look how it's smoothed out smoothed out that. So now it's like, now I want to go through all my PlayStation games and go, and what's bad is I have way too many PlayStation 3 games to do that. But
I don't know how games that still look gorgeous to this day to me, like
Have you
something
tried it
like
on
the,
PS2 or PS1? I think you'd probably notice a big bump for those.
PS1 and 2 you would. Dreamcast, you notice a good bump up too, because it makes Dreamcast 1080 and then takes the jaggies off it. It makes it real pretty too. But anyway, what were you saying, Dennis?
Well, I was just saying, because there's still a lot of games like now compared to what we have now that on PS3 that still look great to me. Games like a lot of the Quantic Dream games, where I still think Beyond Two Souls still looks phenomenal to me on PS3. So and I know that got remastered on like PS4, but I kind of want to see what it would look like through that. Games that are would still hold up today. I feel like games like that, games like maybe some of the older Tales games, like Symphonia and stuff like that, and Ni no Kuni, for example. See if there's a difference between the
and
remaster
then if you're
and the
crazy,
PS3.
you just take those and compare it to the PC versions of those and see how
Right.
close it gets.
Yeah.
But that's only if you're crazy.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, and see, I've got all those games. I want to try out all those games and see what it's like. So.
Right.
But yeah, I'm gonna try to. I don't have any way to capture 1440 footage, unfortunately. But I'm gonna try to do some just capture some footage of going like 720 to 1080 and 480 to 1080. And the GameCube, though, what ones I've done with the GameCube just look absolutely freaking amazing on it. It's like, holy crap! I knew the GameCube was, but I have some caveats with the GameCube. I have a Carby that has the HDMI out, so I'm getting that benefit. I've got the I'm doing the soft mod with the Swiss, so I'm getting the ability to take a game that's not usually progressive and make it progressive, and then upscale it to 480 with the smoothing. So it's like, when somebody's got a GameCube like that, you say, well, I spend $11 on that, I spend $70 on the Carby, I spend $100 on this, and then I spend $20 on the Action Replay to get the ability to be able to use Swiss, and you're talking $200 to make a $50 GameCube look 1080p.
Right.
It's kind of like, well, I could just use my Wii. It's like, I could just use my Wii and do it a lot cheaper. But
Except the Wii doesn't have the nice boot up animation that the GameCube has.
True.
That's very true.
The ever so iconic
Yep.
blocks coming in. I love that thing.
You're very, very, very right. So, but yeah, so that's what I've been doing this weekend, is messing with this. So next weekend, though, I should have some more free time to actually be able to put this through its paces. And eventually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to redo my entire setup so I can just have this on all the time. I just got to figure out how I'm going to do. Well, I guess I could just turn it off when I'm doing retro games through there. So, but I've got to get a 4K switch or splitter because it won't do 4K unless I plug it directly into the TV. And I like to have things set up so I can just plug this in and run it to the Elgato. And I don't know. I got to decide how I want to do it. So, once again, I've got to change my entire setup in less than 2 months. So, oh well. But Dennis, what have you been playing? You've been playing this Dragon Ball Z game pretty good. I've heard mixed things about it. Some people say it's great. Other people I've heard say it's okay.
Yeah, I think it's one of those games where I was talking to somebody else about this that was, kind of on the fence about it. And I was like, look, man, it is basically, if you're a big Dragon Ball fan, it's one of those games that I think you should play. But is it something you need right away? Is it something, it's nothing mind blowing. You're going through the Saiyan saga for the 50th time. It's the same song and dance we've all been through, game and game and game again. But it takes it through a different perspective. And one of my favorite games ever, not just for licensed games, but probably ever, is probably Legacy of Goku 2 on Game Boy Advance. And because that game, especially at the time, did things that, especially playing RPGs like Golden Sun and, Pokemon and some of the Mana games and whatnot. My Game Boy Advance was a pretty big RPG system, but the Legacy of Goku just kind of did things differently, and then having that Dragon Ball, aesthetic to it, me having grown up with it and still being a big fan of it, was just kind of mind blown at the time. So this is almost like a 3D version of that. I wouldn't say it's anywhere near as deep, just because Legacy of Goku 2 also took a lot of creative liberties. It did take you through all the way up until the end of the Cell Saga, I believe. But it was everything outside of the main story that made it so great. All the side quests and just going from city to city, going in buildings and doing all these puzzles. They almost had like a Metroidvania-esque type of approach to it as well, where it's like, you see a dungeon that has a big door that says 138 on it because you have to be level 138 to go through, but then maybe you don't just have to be level 138. Maybe it's 138, but you have to be, a specific character as well. So, and you could switch between so many characters, and it was just so deep. And this is basically, if they took that kind of foundation of Legacy of Goku, but then kind of gave it the treatment that they gave One Piece World Seeker, of let's just kind of give players now finally an open world anime game, rather than just yet another Dragon Ball game where it's just like select a fighter, select a stage. So because it's as much as I love Dragon Ball, and they've had a lot of great games as well, it's you get you always know what you're getting yourself into when you buy a Dragon Ball game, and that's why I like, for any series really, that kind of steps away from what they're known for. It's why I like Super Dragon Ball Heroes on Switch. It was a card game instead. It did something different.
Right.
That's why I like Dragon Ball Fusions on 3DS. It was kind of like almost kind of like a strategy RPG. And it was really, really interesting. And so I like this in the fact that you do fight in the traditional sense, like you would, almost like Tenkaichi, when you're actually in battles. But outside of battles, the open world is, like I just got, done with the Frieza saga, just shortly before this, and so we're back on Earth now. But being on Namek, it's kind of cool, just kind of seeing, these worlds now that aren't just a backdrop. They're finally something you can explore and go into and take a deeper look at. So, as a fan, I think it's really great. It's far from perfect though, just like One Piece World Seeker was. It still has its issues. It's still one of those things where it's just like, you could have done so much more to make this so feature rich and truly make this a one of a kind, Dragon Ball experience, if not, raising the standard, if you will, raising the bar for what an anime game could be, versus something, cliche, because a lot of them do tend to be, more often than not, I don't want to say cash grabs, but it's they're very bare bones. You know, it's just like,
Right.
let's just do the bare minimum to appease the fans. You know, but you know, they're not memorable. They're not. You know, it's just something to get you by because you're just like, hey, I enjoy this property. It'd be fun for a little bit, and then you just kind of forget about it afterwards. You know, it doesn't really have a meaning behind. There's no real true merit, I guess. You know, but this, and one of the reasons why I liked World Seeker so much is because you know, it was an original story. You know, World Seeker, it was an original, beautiful world, but again, that world felt like a test playground. If anything, it was so empty. There was nothing. There was barely any sound design. You would walk into a city, there was 30 seconds of music, and then it was just wind for the duration of your gameplay. That was it. That's all you heard. You would see birds fly over, but you wouldn't hear any chirps or anything like that. You wouldn't even hear the wings flapping. There's a lot of things that game could have done in terms of making it a lot more immersive in that regard. And that game is gorgeous too. And Kakarot kind of has a similar approach. However, I am happy to announce that this, you know, the world is a little more lively. They put NPCs. That's great. You know, that's all I was asking for.
Yeah,
It's
really.
not,
Yeah.
that was one of the things World Seeker was suffering from. Was it really was just like by the time they shipped it, they were just like, oh my god, we forgot to put stuff in there. Uh oh. You know, like we got the story. Yeah. But like one of the biggest cities in World Seeker, for example, it has like 3 people for at least a mile, and I'm like, come on, this is obnoxious. Collectibles everywhere though, so I mean, like, you know, it's one of those things where I think I told somebody that Kakarot felt almost like, because the overworld, like I was saying earlier, just it's not as deep as I would have liked it to be, especially, you know, with playing games recently, you know, like, you know, Dragon Quest 11S, and you know, even something like Pokemon recently. You know, everything is very on the surface with Kakarot, and World Seeker was like that too, where it's like, if you see it, that's what it is. You don't expect to
Right.
interact with it. Don't expect to really do anything there. You know, and it's unfortunate because it's like you could have done so much more. I would have liked to go into these buildings. I would have liked to just kind of interact with more stuff versus just collect these orbs in the sky and just go to your next mission.
Right.
You know, so it almost feels like. You know, almost like Lego. I was saying to somebody else, where it's just like, we just put a bunch of stuff for you to collect everywhere. Because like some of the more open world Lego games, like the more recent ones, like DC Supervillains and Marvel Superheroes 2 and Lego City, of course. There's not much to them other than just go do the mission. In the meantime, we put a bunch of
unlock the characters,
Mhm.
rinse and repeat.
literally same thing. Yeah, you get those little
After
emblems
25
too, circular.
hours, get distracted by something
Right.
else.
And that, yeah, it's very good at doing that. It's very good at distracting you. You know, much like Lego is, where it's just like, we just put collectibles everywhere.
Here they are. Have fun.
Right. And
Are they pretty easy to find as the collectibles? Like, are they readily on the map at all, or sort of like Spider-Man, or you got to go look?
yeah, it's a little bit of both. I would say more on the side of Spider-Man, but but you do have to look for some of them, but they're not particularly hard to look for either, though. So you have a little button that puts you in the kind of like a first-person mode, which also is almost like a focus. So you can kind of look around and look, and you know, things that wouldn't normally show up on the map will show up in that mode to kind of, and you'll start seeing these kind of pulsating lights or something. Then you head that direction, and then you're just like, oh, okay, I found something here, you know. So it's kind of like that, but yeah, you know, it's a step in the right direction, especially, you know, having more of a 3D realized, you know, Legacy of Goku with the kind of World Seeker type of approach to it. But yeah, like I said, it's one of those things where it's just like, you know, compared to other RPGs and, you know, games of, you know, this caliber, it's just like, you know, you always know you can do more. You know, and but you know, at the end of the day, as a Dragon Ball fan, I'm very happy with it. Very happy with it. Not once have I thought, oh, I can't believe I spent $60 on this. You know, so I've been happy with it, and it's been a lot of fun. I'm about almost 20 hours into the game now, and you know, I think it's either a very long game or I'm very easily distracted because like I said, I just finished the Frieza saga, and it goes through all of it, all of Dragon Ball Z. So you know, 20 hours into it. So. But yeah, no, I'm very happy. Sometimes you just want something simple. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I like playing Lego, where it's just like I just want to collect stuff.
Right. Yeah.
That's it. I don't want to think much. I just want to run around and unlock stuff. That's what made Super Mario Odyssey so amazing too. But granted, Mario Odyssey had a lot more depth to it and was a brilliant, beautiful, magical game. But that kind of collectathon nature of it just kind of had an by default was just made it kind of addicting, the game. So but overall, I mean, long story short is it's far from perfect, much like World Seeker was. It's a step in the right direction, and I'm excited to see more games like this in the future. But there's still a lot that can be done, and I swear to God, if the next one is yet another retelling of Dragon Ball again, I'm gonna fight somebody. But other than that, I'm very happy with it, and that's one thing that I would hope that they do like they did with World Seeker, where it's just like, just make an original story. I just don't want to play the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. But hey, what do they care if it's going to sell anyways? So
yeah, what do they care? So.
But yeah, that's really all I've been playing. Since it came out just 2 days ago. So Kakarot. Before that, I was just kind of doing catching up with some backlog stuff. I finally got around to playing Evil Within 2. Beat that. That game is brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Had an anime week leading up to Kakarot, so I played a couple of Naruto games. None of them particularly good. And Shinobi Striker especially, that game was trash. But yeah, no, it's really just Kakarot's kind of the main focus for now. But yeah, I've been playing that, and like I said, I've been thoroughly enjoying it. Despite its faults, it's a step in the right direction. But still could do a lot more. So, but yeah,
cool. Nathaniel, why don't you go ahead and tell us what you've been playing?
I've got a few different ones that I've been playing. So one of them that I played is Outer Wilds, not Worlds,
right.
Wilds.
Right.
That game is really, really cool. It's kind of like similar to Subnautica in many ways as far as how the storytelling is, and like you're just dumped into this world and you have to go around and uncover bits and pieces of things, and then you piece together kind of what's going on as you go through your journey. Mm-hmm. And it's also got some similarities to like Myst and things from back in the day, in that there's a little bit of like some sort of like puzzle solving, like environmentally a little bit, where you're like trying to figure out how to get to a thing and how to get around stuff, and there's all these things going on. I've heard it described as like they build a clockwork galaxy. So what happens is you start the game, you're by a campfire, you can roast marshmallows on it if you want. You're like a little alien dude with like 6 eyes, I think it is. Right. And you're running around and you're like the next astronaut to go into space, and there's been a few before you, and it's like, all right, you got to go through, get the launch codes before you can go run off, which lets you go through all the tutorial stuff, and here's how flying your ship's going to work with a little like drone. Here's how you go into the 0G cave that's in the center of the planet, and then you eventually make it back to your ship and you blast off. And kind of all of the planets are sort of like, they feel like Mario Galaxy in that they're small, and you can go around, but they're not as small as like Mario Galaxy would have been, because it's like a bit bigger, and they vary in size too. And like there's several different unique planets that you can go to, and there's different like little clue threads that you follow. Okay, I'm going to go to this one, go to that one. And eventually you kind of piece together what's going on. But the cool hook with the game is that every 22 minutes the sun explodes, and then the time loop resets. But you're one of the only people that like keep your memories, and there's reasons for that. And uncovering that is kind of part of the game. It's like, okay, what is going on? Why do I still like remember everything that's going on and everyone else doesn't? What's this time loop thing going on? And it's really, really cool. And there's just some really neat like environments, really cool like little puzzle areas, really fun just figuring out how things work. And like just exploring. It's a game about exploring and finding cool little pieces of lore or just the story. There's like an ancient race of aliens that were in your galaxy before you, and they're no longer there, and you're kind of uncovering what happened to them. And yeah, I don't know. It's got a really good like soundtrack to it too.
I was gonna say
whenever
the
music
sound-
comes in, it's really good.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the soundtrack and the sound design in that game, especially like I that was one of those games where I felt it was one of those mandatory headphone games,
Yeah.
where I mean I just fell in love with just kind of the serenity of just kind of exploring space and whatnot.
It does a good job of like it's going to bring music in at a specific point, and then other times there's
Yes.
nothing
Yeah, it doesn't
there except
overdo
for just you hear the little like the
Right.
puffs of your thrusters kind of trying to maneuver you through space, and oops, you did something wrong, and now the autopilot took you through the sun and you're dead. Like maybe I won't do that next time.
Yeah, I did.
You start flying in that game and you're terrible at it, and it takes
Yes.
like playing through that game to sort of figure out, oh, okay, this is how the physics in here works. This is
Yes.
what the arrows in the HUD are meaning when you're trying to line up with the planet. This is how long I have to actually hold the thrusters down, or to tell, oh, hey, I'm in space and I'm coming up against this planet. It looks like I'm going slow, but pay attention to the speed because it gets big real quick and you'll just crash land. Like,
Oh yes.
there's a little bit of that learning curve where you're just like, oh, whoops, I did that poorly. But yeah, there's all sorts of fun little nooks and crannies to discover. There's all sorts of just fun things that'll happen to you where you're just like, oh crap, I didn't expect that. It's a really fun, surprising game. Especially when you get towards the end game of it, there's some really wild, like just crazy stuff in there.
Yeah, I need to play it. I know I've got it. It's on Game Pass, but it seems like I had it before it was on Game Pass on Xbox. Like they gave it away for something at one point. I don't know. It seemed like there was a thing where
Unless I've misunderstood. I think it's only on Game Pass and then on the Epic Game Store.
Well,
maybe there was some weird giveaway thing, but that's the only two places I'm aware.
I think there was a weird giveaway thing at one time. If you watched the Xbox E3 press conference on Mixer, they sent you, because I had it on pre-order on my system for a long time, and then it came out on Game Pass, and I'm like, oh, I've got the, I'll play that, but I think it's on my account, just always, if I remember right.
So a fun thing I learned, like when I finished playing it, fortuitously, NoClip put out a documentary on this game, and there's a cool tidbit I learned. Like the small studio that made the game is like they won some, like it was like a college project that they then expanded into like a more full game. Was they kind of like won a bunch of awards and got publishers. Like this original couple of people working on it have been working on it for a long time, but the company that they actually kind of like that did it was founded by the guy who was Hero in Heroes, the actor. Okay. I can't remember his name now off the top of my head.
That's right.
Yeah, I know.
But he just kind of like wanted to fund a small game company.
Yeah.
So this just happens to be kind of how they got connected, and this is the game that they first made. So it's a neat little tidbit I learned that was kind of fun.
Yeah,
That's super cool.
Yeah, I had no idea.
But yeah, apparently there's all sorts of fun things in the engine that they had to make that's different than other games because everything's all curved surfaces. So like say if you're making a bridge, if you're at the surface of the planet, it's one curve. But if you're like say further down in the planet or like the different elevations, it changes like how the curve has to be, how the physics work with it, and all that stuff that they had to solve. That was kind of insane. Yeah. And like if you're just the guy running around, every time you like jump, you're actually not jumping. All the universe is kind of like falling out from under you and going back. Like in the game engine, like wherever the cameras and stuff are, the like, player character's actually just in the same spot. It just feels like you're moving because of the way that it works. But for whatever reason, they had to make it that way so that things didn't break.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. But I would not watch that documentary unless you have played the game. You can watch, like, they give like a spoiler warning, but there's just like some stuff in there. They don't spoil it too badly, but there is some stuff in there that'll be like, if you have not played it and feel like it, it would spoil some stuff for you that would be better to kind of learn by playing.
Yeah.
Let's see. I also played Gris finished that game. It's not too long. That game is really gorgeous.
I've heard good things about that too.
It's very light on gameplay, but gorgeous.
Yeah, that's okay.
I mean, it's kind of like a platformer, but there's nothing super tough about it for the most part. There's a few sections that are kind of a little bit of like challenge goes into it, but it's mostly just like go here, solve a little bit of a puzzle, keep going, and loop around back kind of the hub, and now do something else, and you're like adding different colors to the world, and eventually like you go through the whole thing. It wasn't. It was something like like a Flower or Journey or something of those games that like PS3 had a lot of. It's similar type of a game, and it was a lot of fun. I liked it. Interestingly enough, I also played Hob, which has a similarity to it in that there's no voice in it. It's all kind of like visual storytelling and like no actual vocal lines. Hob is made by the studio that did Torchlight games, the Torchlight games.
Yeah.
And like they went under shortly after this game was put out or right before it, I forget, but that studio no longer exists, which is sad because the Torchlight games are really good. And this one's a pretty good version of a 3D Zelda game, basically. It's kind of the setup to it. You're like a little character and you're running through the world and you've got to figure out what's going on with this corruption that's out there, and you get like different upgrades and abilities and stuff, kind of like you would in a Zelda game. There's even like dungeons and stuff. So I just finished that the other day, like yesterday, I think.
Oh wow!
It wasn't an amazing game, but it was a lot of. It had a neat ending that kind of, I think, pulled it together pretty nicely. Like you can pick one of two different things, and then if you pick the one, and then it dumps you back where you were, so you can go and pick the other one without having to replay the whole game, which I appreciate.
Cool. Yeah, I like that. That's nice.
Yeah, it's got the same. It's got a very similar kind of look to it that like the Torchlight games did with their design sensibilities. So you can tell it's like the same studio that would have run through it. It's just kind of a different style of game than what Torchlight was.
Right.
Torchlight was like Diablo. This is like Zelda.
Cool.
And then I also started playing Sundered, which is really, really cool.
Yeah.
It's kind of like take a roguelite and
like
Metroidvania. And
I played it. Or did play the demo.
I've been wanting
to
packs.
They have, and all of the art is like hand drawn and hand animated, so it's really, really cool looking. It's really nice. It controls really well. So far, I've played like a couple of the main areas. I haven't gotten too far into it, but I've unlocked a few of the like powers and stuff at there. So it's very much like a Metroidvania in that you go through, you get like an ability, and then it unlocks other places. But it brings in the roguelike stuff where some of the places on the map are just like a big chunk, and then they're randomly generated inside of that every time. So you have like little sub rooms that get changed each time you go through. And then there's a few different connecting areas that are the same every time. But like a lot of the chunks of the stuff you're going through can be slightly different depending on how the dice roll the next time you get through. Right. But man, the art in that game is really good, which makes me want to play Jotun, which is the game they made before this one.
Yeah.
That is also hand drawn. So
yeah, I like that game.
Like same studio. It's got, looking at the two, you can see like it gets similar kind of design, although this one's more about like eldritch horror stuff and riffing on that, versus Jotun was more like Viking things.
Yeah, it's more like Norse thing. Yeah.
Norse stuff. Yeah. So they're kind of taking a little bit of a different kind of overall aesthetic kind of inspiration and running in a different direction with it, but it has a similar style in the way that like it's drawn, I guess.
Oh, that's cool. I like that game a lot.
So you can choose in this game whenever you get abilities, you get ones like you get like a overshield, or you get like your double jump or whatever. Any ability you get, once you get these crystals, like these eldritch crystals, you can choose to corrupt that power and get it like different like version of it. But I don't know like if that gives you like any drawbacks later on or whatever, but they're kind of playing on that, which is kind of fun. I'm like, I'm going all corruption, so I corrupted my first power. I've only found enough crystal pieces to do that so far. It gets really hard really fast. Like I was starting it and I was like, oh, this game's not too difficult. And then it's like, oh, never mind. Here's some more tough enemies and here's the boss fight. Okay, there you go. They just ramp you up a little bit and then they put the gas on and you're like, all right, now I'm dying a whole lot more. Because they have different like kind of like Left 4 Dead and a bunch of games since then where they have like random times where it's like hordes will come in. Yeah. So you hear like a little bit of a gong noise and then like swarms of enemies will come in. You're like, oh crap. I was already at half health. Let's run away.
That's hilarious.
So yeah, that's pretty much what I've been playing.
Cool. Yeah, Outer Worlds. I did a quick Google search. Microsoft gave Outer Wilds away if you watched the 2018 E3 press conference through Mixer.
There you go.
I'm surprised they haven't put it out on Steam or anywhere else just yet, because it's been at least a year since it came out on like the Epic Game Store and stuff.
Yeah.
So I wonder how long those exclusivity periods are.
I don't know.
Because
I played it through
if it was in
Game
more
Pass.
places, people would play it, because like give it to where they can actually try it out. Like Game
That's the
Pass is a
thing.
good place because you can just be like, oh, I don't know about this game, but since you have Game Pass, you could try it. So,
Right.
That was me. And that was me.
Yeah.
That was exactly me. And I was pleasantly surprised when I started playing. I loved it. I fell in love with it.
it's not going to be a game for everybody, but
No,
like
God,
if you
no.
look into it, think it looks interesting, it's worth trying for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's really
that may
fun.
be the next game I play. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I bought Resident Evil 2 on Redbox for like $6. It's like, maybe I'll play that. I haven't played a Resident Evil game since 4. So it's like, maybe I'll go back and play.
I play too much.
Yeah, but then it was like, maybe I'll go play something else. So maybe I'll play Outer Wilds. Maybe that's what I'll play next. Something nice, short, and cool. So, all right, Eric, what have you been playing?
Oh, I was thinking about Resident Evil 2 and how I want to play it. I have a feeling like games where I get stuck and I'm like, just give up. Well, hopefully not. I have not been playing very much. Borderlands 3, but I talked about that a lot. I recently fixed my modded Wii finally, and so I've been playing a little bit of Baldur's Gate, Deadly Alliance, and Ikaruga. Deadly Alliance is interesting. I can see why that type of game isn't really that popular anymore.
Man, I like that game. That was
I mean,
fun.
it is interesting, but after I played it for I had nothing to do on Friday, so I played it for a couple hours. I'm like, all right, this is interesting,
Yeah.
and I can see why people like it. It's entertaining, but I gotta see why. Yeah, kind of full. Ikaruga is pretty fun too. I'd never played that before at all, actually.
I own it
So
on.
it's good on the GameCube.
I don't have the GameCube version. I own it on 360 arcade, and I bought it on Switch when it came out.
I have it on Dreamcast, but it's not an actual. It's
Right.
not the actual game,
Yeah.
just a copy. And it runs. It's okay. It runs fine.
Yeah,
But yeah, I haven't really been playing much. I mean, I went to a video game swap this weekend, and I barely played anything there too. Just wandered around and bought a few things. I did see somebody with the M Classic for $60, and I thought about it. Walked away for a minute. It was gone. That's
yeah,
usually
$60 is a deal. That thing's
My
$100.
brother saw something too that was pretty interesting, and he was the guy had a red VMU and a yellow VMU for Dreamcast for like $5 a piece. Pretty good deal.
Yep,
My
I've got.
brother said, "Can I borrow the money?" He turned to me, and they were gone. So the guy was like right behind him. And that happens, and I always tell him
Yeah.
just if you see something you like and the price is pretty good,
Get it.
just get it.
Immediately, yeah. Especially at a swap that big, And I don't know
It's
if you
pretty
noticed
good.
that
They said
on
there was like
Twitter.
1,000 people there.
Oh, I'd believe it. I don't know if you saw the conversation between me and one of the guys on Twitter. The guy that I follow, we follow each other. Works at Sucker Punch. He's from West Virginia and went to Morgantown. That's how we found each other on Twitter. And he got up Saturday morning and went, man, there's a video game swap meet going on in my hotel. And I went, oh, really? I think Eric's at one of those. Does it happen to be such and such in the such and such hotel? And he was like, yes, it does. I was like,
I did not see that. I wonder if you picked up anything. That's
I
cool.
don't
I hope you
know.
came out and checked it out.
I was like, what a small little world this is.
Yeah, it was only a few bucks to get in and walk around, and they were giving away stuff, and they're talking about how next year they might even make it like a 2-day or expand it. I mean, it's just a spin-off of the big
Portland
the
Retro
big,
Gaming
the big
Show.
Portland Retro Gaming Show, which is
Yeah.
they moved that to August this year, which is going to be pretty tough for me to go to because I have so much going on in August.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
weird.
there's probably a conflict with the venue, so maybe that's why they moved it to August because it takes up like a third of the Oregon Convention Center,
yeah.
and it's growing every year. So maybe in October of next year, it just won't work out.
Maybe it seems strange. It's to move it back that many months. 2 months. That's big because they've always been in
Yeah.
October, so it's kind of strange. But well, maybe pushing it back, maybe more people since it's in August will be able to attend. Maybe I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe a little bit easier since kids are out of school for summer. But
Right.
I think next game on the list, I'm gonna give Resident Evil 2 a shot. Try to jump back into Control. I really need to finish.
Yeah.
Dishonored
There's a
expansion,
bunch of them I
Dishonored 2
need to
expansion,
finish.
Prey. I need to play that other game that Nathaniel's all about, that Divinity Original Sin 2 that I got super cheap for PS4.
Yeah, I need to.
That game is great because it's got so many different just like choices that matter in that game.
One. I tried to tell myself that I should beat the first one. First thing, like halfway through.
Doesn't matter. They don't really connect. You don't have to play them.
Excellent. That's what I like to hear.
Yeah. I need to finish Control as well. I need to
finish. And 2 is so much better than 1, which is a lot of fun too. So yeah, 2 is.
I liked 1. I liked all
really
the neat stuff. It hooked me and whatnot. So that's good.
That's what I may do. I may finish Control and finish Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And go from there. So before I start something new, maybe I should finish games that I'm halfway through. For a change. I don't know. I don't usually finish games anymore.
Yeah, I got a bunch of different games that I got on the Steam sales. I've gone through a few of them now, so I've got several more in the queue. I just have to pick: do I want a long game or a short game?
Yeah, that's always the trick. It's like, okay, yeah, I need to decide if I want to go short, long, how I want to do.
It's like, do I want to do Dragon Quest XI or do I want to do this in game?
Yeah, Dragon Quest is pretty good, but man, it's a long game.
So I want to do Monster Hunter World, or do I want to do this other game that's 5 hours long?
Yeah, and you usually choose the 5-hour game, then you do the.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I can knock it out, and get done, and check it off the list.
Exactly. All right, well, let's get into the news real quick. I just threw in a couple of interesting news articles just to say, hey. Past 2 weeks, there's been lots of delays. A lot of them, most of them, I'm not surprised.
Who wouldn't have seen this coming?
So, Avengers, Cyberpunk 2077, Final Fantasy VII, and Iron Man VR have all been delayed. I know Iron Man's May, Avengers was September, and Cyberpunk and Final Fantasy were both April. Was that right? They're both in the same.
Cyberpunk was April. Now it's September.
That's right. Okay, September. I know there's a time in April when like a bunch of games come out at one time. Now that Final Fantasy has been pushed back, and everybody's like, "What?" And I'm like, "It's Final Fantasy, people. I don't care."
It's also part 1. That's the thing that I still can't get over. It's just like it's not even the full Final Fantasy VII. That's why I just don't care.
Part 2 will be out in like a decade. It'll be fun.
And they'll charge $60.
I'll get the complete edition then.
Like, how long has it been since they had the original announcement for this remake? Has it been 4 years now?
A while. Yeah.
I mean, would you even count the render back from the PS3 days when they kind of showed?
No, I'm talking about like the big E3 trailer.
Okay, the actual confirmation.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I know
it's like even since then it's been a while, and it's still just part 1.
Yeah. Whatever. I'm done with Final Fantasy. But you all know my feelings on that, so I'm not going to go into it again.
The only one of those 4 that I really care about, I play the Avengers 2 probably, unless it's just like supposed to be terrible, but I doubt it will be because the studio making it, like they make at least decent games. But no, Cyberpunk, I'm just like, I wanted to play that game, and I have to wait. Yeah. The good thing is now I have a few more months to decide if I'm going to upgrade a graphics card or not.
Right. Yeah. Yep, that's true. So,
because I was wanting to, because I'm surely they're going to have a bunch of ray tracing stuff in there, so I want a video card that does the ray tracing stuff. But then I'm like, well, that costs a lot of money. Do I want to do that or not? But it's Cyberpunk. It's all that war in your head. So I have a few more months to decide.
Yeah, you got a few more months to decide and a few more months to save. So it's not a bad thing at all. So. Surprised to no one, PlayStation will not participate in E3 2020 again. Well, I say surprised to nobody. I'm almost kind of surprised with the PlayStation 5 coming out. I figured they would want to have at least a E3 press conference. I know they don't have a presence on the show floor anymore, but either does Microsoft. But they still do their conference or their press conference at E3 across the street. I really figured Sony would do something like that too.
It gets people talking,
Yeah, well, but the rumor I hear is February 5th, we're probably going to get a full reveal of everything that they know so far with PlayStation 5. I
think this is just Sony going, hey, we saved a ton of money last year and it didn't really hurt us all that much. let's do that again because we can communicate by ourselves
Yeah.
out to the internet and everyone will still see it. So why
Yeah.
spend all the E3 money?
That's true. And I know a lot of people are in the camp that E3 doesn't matter anymore, that it's not a special thing like it used to be, and this and that and that, and that is true to an extent. But then at the same time, all the world does have their eyes on E3.
It is sad because if any year was going to matter this year with 2 new consoles just like showing everything this year because they're all coming out in a few months.
Right. Yeah. And do I think it's going to hurt sales? No, of course not. It's not going to hurt sales. But for Sony to yield the stage to Microsoft again, and this year Microsoft, they're going to be the only ones at E3 during the E3 press conference and stuff, having a system to say, this is what we got, this is what it could do, this is what even if we know everything by the time E3 comes out, they'll still have an hour and a half to sit and just talk about.
It makes you wonder, is this the same as the last time around where the top dog does something stupid and the one who's like kind of like the secondary one's like, hey, we'll take that chance and leap on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it could possibly be something like that. I don't know, but I mean, I know there's a lot of guys. If you hang out on Twitter at any point for any amount of time, there are guys out there that are just like, well, it doesn't matter anymore because E3 died the minute that it went public to allow people to come in. It's not this, it's not that. And to me, it just kind of sounds like people that used to go to E3 because they were press are kind of crying because they don't get the. That's just my opinion of it. But
then again, like you look at the floor tours from last year's E3, and it was pretty sad.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of them compare them to PAX, E3 to PAX now, and I don't know. To me, I still think PAX is a different type of.
Oh, I'm not even. Yeah, it is different type, but I'm looking at E3's show floor compared to like previous years. You look at all the videos of people like walking the show floor. Not nearly as good last year as they've had before.
I was watching a conversation on Twitter where people were arguing, and I decided to stay out of it. About like people were saying. Like game journalists were saying that maybe the amount of people going to E3 was less and less. And this guy was like, no, there's tons of people going. But I think what the game journalist was getting at, I think it was somebody from IGN, that there's less companies there.
Right.
There's less, big names. Things are shrinking because companies are like, why go? It's not, maybe it's not, the show isn't for us anymore. Let's go to PAX. Let's go if we go to a retro gaming show, something like that. So
one company that
I really do think that PAX and a few of the other shows that have grown over the years have taken E3's thunder in different ways, so that E3 has changed.
The cost of going to E3
the whole scope of just the industry itself has changed a lot. So it's just kind of we're in the middle of things.
It would be
about.
Well.
I should talk to my friends that have been to both to kind of compare, like, what's it like waiting in line for AAA games at PAX versus E3? Is it shorter, better, the experience easier?
And I think the other thing too is your PAX. PAX is in Boston, Seattle, and is it San Antonio that they have south? Is that right? And E3 is in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. Los Angeles is expensive. For people going from east to west, that's an expensive flight. Hotels are expensive. Eating's expensive. Yeah, I mean, well, if I went to E3 and we flew out of here, it would be. We checked last year just for giggles. It was like $1,200 flight just for one of us to fly from Columbus to Los Angeles and back at that time of year. It was just like, that's too expensive. And then you got the price of the ticket, and then you got your hotel, which if you want to get in,
aren't the tickets for the public to go? They're at least a couple $100, right?
I honestly don't know. I know they've got to at least be $250 for the weekend. I would say if I'm just guessing though. I don't know, but if anybody should go to the show, it should be EA. EA should do away with their stupid conference thing that's so dumb that nobody. Some companies need to go to that thing, and EA is one of them.
Yeah, but EA is just trash, so it doesn't matter anyway. They can show it at theirs, or they can show it on like a booth on the show floor. Yeah. They're gonna have like one game that anyone's actually gonna care about, and then like 15,000 things of Madden and FIFA that everybody knows what it is. Even if you like those games, you know what it is.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, but that was the thing that surprised me with Sony this year was they weren't even going to have like a any kind of press event during E3, which is like, I thought that was really odd with them this year.
I mean, they say that, but then what if they just do it like a week ahead of time or a week after to see what Microsoft did? Like, it's technically not, but it's still close enough that whatever. Who
That's
knows?
true.
They could do so many different things.
Yeah. So I know you've already we talked about this for the show. You already played Horizon Zero Dawn, but if it comes to PC, Nathaniel, would you play it again?
I'll definitely buy that game again and probably play through the whole thing again because that game is gorgeous on PlayStation and it'll look even better on PC, and I love that game so much.
Well,
I would definitely play that again.
That is the rumor that it is. It's not been officially announced, but it will be announced that it's coming to PC.
I mean, it's like supposedly 3 sources told Kotaku or whoever originally did the story that hey, off the record, it's coming, but have NDAs or something probably.
Yeah.
The thing that gives it a little bit more oomph in my mind is that there's the stupid Kojima game, Death Stranding. There we go. I had to get there. Death Stranding is coming out on PC, and it's the same engine because they took Horizon's engine, so they can get that running on PC. Surely you could do some working at Horizon going. So
there's also, Detroit and Journey, which were both previously PlayStation exclusives, now on PC as well.
Yeah. And I think maybe you might see that more this coming gen, because that's one thing that Microsoft has really done real well is their exclusive games have come to PC, and they've still sold well on the platform and they've sold well on PC.
Yeah.
So I could totally see Sony.
I could see this as Sony dipping their toe in a little bit to see how that goes. Full on do a whole bunch of stuff with the PlayStation 5 or not, depending on how it goes.
It's that unification too, but I think one thing that Sony, for me anyways, that they would need to do that Microsoft has been doing is having that once you buy it one, you want it on both.
Right.
That's the thing that Microsoft does very well. Outside of Game Pass, if you bought a Microsoft property game, they would give you, as a Play Anywhere title, both the PC version and Xbox version. Of course, if you got it digitally, if you got it physically, then you're kind of locked to the format you bought it on. But digitally would entitle you to the license for both.
Yeah.
You know what I'm going to find fun about Horizon Zero Dawn PC is it has all of the Xbox buttons in the user interface when I use my Xbox controller. The one thing that I won't have, which maybe I'll hook up my PlayStation controller if it would work, is like the way they use the touchpad in that game to where if you lightly brushed it, then the HUD would show up. If you clicked it, then the map would show up. And that was just like really nice. So like, I don't know, you couldn't do that with any other controller.
See, look, I have a PlayStation controller that looks like an Xbox controller because I made it that way.
Sure.
So
that doesn't change how the interface looks, though.
Well, no, it doesn't change the interface, but it finally feels like a Xbox controller on the PlayStation, which is what I've been wanting. Somebody locally was selling this for $50, and this is a $200 controller. So I went, yes, please, I will take that.
Nice.
And the only reason I wanted it was so I could swap sticks and that's it. Other than that, I didn't care about it. So yes, I am a serious gamer. I have a Pro controller for my PlayStation, and I have a Pro controller for my Xbox because I play so much video games on the PlayStation and Xbox that it's worthy to have expensive controllers that I paid half the price or a quarter of the price of what they should have cost because I don't know why. I don't know why they sold it that cheap. I didn't ask. I didn't care. I just said, I'll take it.
See what happens if you play for too long. It just like adheres to your hand and you can't let go.
Yeah. Well, I'm surprised that hasn't happened with the Genesis controller over the years or something. I probably have, like, if you peel away the muscle or the skin, probably under the muscle, there's probably indentions of controllers in my, ingrained in the muscles of my hands, I'm sure. So the last story I wanted to touch on, because so many people, when this story originally came out, a lot of the places, the way they worded the title of it, people really jumped on it. Xbox won't have Series X exclusives for at least a year. Now,
which is a dumb way to put it. That's
right.
Really
it's
what that means.
Not what the story is.
No, That's not what the story is at all. It just means you won't have a game that's exclusive to the Series X. You'll be able to play it on Xbox One, and you'll be able to play it on Series X in upgraded graphics, just kind of like you do with the Xbox One X now. Which is...
Well, I mean, it seems like, okay, because you're going to be developing these for PCs.
Right.
Because this is just going to be the Microsoft first-party stuff.
Right.
If you're already developing it for PC too, that's already going to give you a wide range you have to develop for, so why not let it run on all your boxes? Especially if, like, architecturally they're similar enough that you can.
Right. And
why not?
I have a feeling that we're going to see this on PlayStation from 4 to 5 too. Sony just hasn't come out and announced it yet because we don't know this and that and that and this about the PlayStation yet. But I have a feeling when Sony comes out and says, this is a PlayStation 5, this is what's going to do, we're going to have backwards compatibility, we're going to have this, we're going to have that. You know?
I could see them having like PlayStation 4 games on the PlayStation 5. I don't know that we're going to have PlayStation 5 exclusive games that also are on the PlayStation 4. So, like, say Horizon Zero Dawn 2 comes.
The whole thing you said there got cut off. All I heard was Horizon Zero 2.
So let's say Horizon Zero Dawn 2 comes out. I think it will be just PlayStation 5. I don't think it will be PlayStation 4 and 5.
Right. I figure if it's anything after the first year, that's probably going to be true. I would say probably in the first 6 to 8 months, you're probably still.
But even anything at launch, I don't think there's going to be PlayStation 5 and 4 that would be like a Sony exclusive title, like what Microsoft is saying here.
Yeah, maybe
because Microsoft is treating Xbox as a platform now, which is sort of what they've been doing this whole generation.
Right. Oh yeah, it's very much a brand.
Whereas PlayStation is still going to be like, this is the PlayStation 5. I don't think they're saying PlayStation as a kind of platform the same way that Microsoft is treating theirs.
Yeah, and that could be true too. I mean, you know, you're always going to have those first party or third party games like we did last generation with the Black Flag.
Yeah, so like you'll have Assassin's Creed games on both that are on ones or whatever. It's for sure like the third party games, but anything that's first party, I don't expect that on PlayStation, which is still funny because like it sounds really good on paper, but still Xbox is going to have some good games for me to start paying attention to it. Whereas like PlayStation already built in has like sequels to games from the PS4 that I want.
Yeah, and well, that's with me. There's sequels on the PS4 that I'm going to want. The thing is as of right now, is that leans me more towards an Xbox this time around is services. I really like Game Pass. I like. Yeah,
but what about Spider-Man 2? What about God of War 2? What about Horizon Zero Dawn 2? Like
I've bought
Xbox this time around doesn't have anything baked in, so they can have like with all the studios they've acquired. There's probably going to be plenty of games this time, but they're like unknown at this point, right? Whereas now, like just looking at what I know about now, I'm still like, oh yeah, PlayStation. I know I want that at some point because I have all these things built in that I want the sequels for.
Right. Well, but that's the thing is like I have Horizon Zero Dawn, haven't really played it. I have God of War, not even popped it in the PlayStation.
But you should.
Spider-Man, I played about 3/4 of it, and I haven't finished it yet. So it's like, it's at this point, it's what am I going to play on what? If I'm going to dish out $500 at launch for a new system. But if Microsoft is going to say, well, we're not going to have a quote-unquote exclusive Series X game for a little while, well, this gives me kind of a cushion to say, well, I don't really need to buy a Series X at launch because I'm afraid I'm going to miss something. Where I can go ahead and get a PlayStation and get a Series X later.
That's what they're trying to get people to buy in, and it also gives them cushion for any new IP that more people will be able to try it. Well, because you can try it on your new or current Xbox without having to buy a new one.
Right. Well, and at this point, we will know by June the what on everything.
Yeah, like by the time we get to like the end of this year when both of the consoles are coming out, it's probably, unless something wildly unexpected happens, I'm not going to be buying either one of them right away, probably.
Yeah,
I don't have to.
Yeah, I doubt I will either. I mean, since
I have my PC that I have, that's what I gave anyway. Like those I get for exclusives. So wait a while till it gets cheaper. Get like 4 or 5 exclusives to like PlayStation or Xbox at that time, and to just like binge them.
Yeah.
Well, I upgraded my PC recently, so I've been very happy with it. And I know that's going to last me. I upgraded it back in May, I think, or August. So yeah. So I got an RTX 2060 in this. I'm good.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too is you look at if there's not going to be any really exclusive games on the X Series X, the Series X is only at this point we know of 2 times more powerful than the Xbox One X anyway. So
I thought it was like 4 or 6 times.
No, I think it's only 2. I think it's 4
Really?
times for the S. I think it's only 2 times for the X. Because the X is way more powerful than the S is anyway. If I remember.
Right. Oh yeah, the X is a beast. Yeah, but
Let's see. Let me do a quick Google search because I remember reading.
I'm gonna guess
something
that's
like that.
not right, but I don't know because the Xbox One X is what 2-3 years old now. How old is it?
yeah, it came out in
2.
20. Yeah,
It's like maybe, but I don't know. I would say
2018.
it's more than 2 because that seems not that big of a or not enough of a gap to me. But
I don't know.
that would be surprising.
I've read so much. Let's see. GameStop tells 4 times. So yeah, it's 4 times as powerful as the Xbox One.
Okay.
Plus, regardless of that,
No, wait. Time out. Sorry. Spencer says, okay, let me read the quote here. Spencer tells GameStop that the Series X will offer around 4 times more CPU power than the Xbox One and twice as much GPU power as the Xbox One X.
aka the CPU is 4 times better than both.
Right.
Because the X doesn't really have that much things, but then because of the way console games are done, that's going to translate to a lot. Plus, also the thing they're not talking about, SSDs. That
Right.
right there
that's a
removes
big
so
one.
many bottlenecks that you can have stuff look a lot better because you can load textures and
Loading
things
especially.
much
Yeah.
quicker.
Mhm.
So that's going to, once they get a hold of it, and like 2 or 3 years down the line, once they figure out how to really take all those things running at the top of the game, they're going to be looking really, really cool
Yeah.
games. Just like every console generation, like they look pretty good to start with, and then by the time they figure out every nook and cranny and then squeeze everything out of it, they look pretty insane by the time the console's done.
And then it's time to get a new one.
That's how it goes.
That's
Circle
how
of
it
console life.
Yep, absolutely. So, all right. Anyway, real quick before we go, we wanted to touch on consoles, our games of the decade, games that we thought were really, really good that we enjoyed during the decade. Maybe not games particularly that were very quote unquote popular or that your mainstream. I mean, we have a lot of mainstream games in our list just looking over it, but there is the off chance that there may be a little an oddball game that maybe didn't get hyped up. There was some. I almost put Persona 5 on my game of the decade. I like that game. So
If I was doing like a games of the decade, like art style game of the decade list, Persona 5 would totally be on it because the art and animation of that game.
Yeah. I'll just go through my list real quick. I did lots of series because I just couldn't decide on which particular game.
Cheater.
Well, it's like, okay, the first one, these are not in any particular order. I didn't rank them or anything. So, like, I did the Batman series. It's like I really liked City. I really liked Origins. But, yeah, I kind of like City a little more than Origins. And Night was okay. It wasn't as...
Was Asylum like 2008 or 9?
Yes, yeah. It came
Okay,
out
so it's not
right
quite
at
this
the end.
decade.
Yeah, it's not quite this decade. Because if it had been that, you wouldn't have seen the other 3 on there. It just would have been Arkham Asylum.
I would put City over Night and Origins. But,
Yeah.
I'd still put Arkham, the original one, overall.
Yeah, I would too.
Because I just got a little too bloated. That one's a lot more focused.
Yeah. The Witcher series, I really liked. I like 2. I like 3. That's probably, if I had to rank them, 3 is probably the number 1.
Oh yeah, because
My
like
favorite game
1 was like, hey, we're gonna take the BioWare engine and try and make a game, and we kind of succeeded at it. Then 2 is like, hey, we're gonna do our own engine and
Right.
jump in quality a lot. And then 3 was surprisingly just about the same amount of difference in quality between 2 and 3 as there is between 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So they've definitely improved.
Speaking of the BioWare engine, Mass Effect, I put Mass Effect 2 and 3, the Mass Effect series on there, because Mass Effect 1, again, was kind of before the...
Yeah, just slightly before this decade.
2 is still my favorite, but, to finish out the story, 3 is right there, too.
I'm weird. I like 3 better than 2.
Do you? Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I can see that.
They're both awesome games.
I never went back and played it. Did you play it before or after the patch, where they changed the ending?
I only played 3 before the patch.
Okay, that's what I
I've
only
never
played
played it
too.
since,
I haven't either.
and I
'cause-
loved it.
Yeah,
Everybody hated it. I was like, "Why? This is awesome."
exactly. I did too. That's why I wanted to ask because I couldn't remember. I couldn't
Yeah.
remember if you did or not.
And Andromeda, yeah, we just won't mention it. even
no,
though
I
it's
never
okay.
even played it. I
think-
never even played it.
I did, but
I finished-
it was not as good.
Yeah.
I finished 2 and I meant to play it again. And I started 3 and then I got distracted by other things. Or maybe with 3, I don't know. I did like the long like elevator rides or something. I don't remember. There was something about 3 that
Yeah.
I couldn't get into it.
Are those
I probably
backwards? Are those backwards compatible on the Xbox One?
I don't know.
I don't remember.
The Mass Effect games, they
Yeah.
are.
Are they? I thought
The
they
OG
were.
ones? Yeah, they.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if they were the original ones were or not. I thought they were. There's so many backwards compatible games now. I don't remember
my God,
what
I
ones
know.
were on. So it's like the Red Dead series. I like 1 and 2 equally. Those are right up
You
there.
finished 2 yet?
Nope, I haven't finished 2 yet.
Not gonna spoil it for you, but the game doesn't end after the ending.
Oh, I'm sure the last one didn't.
I mean,
really
it's
end
an
after the
open
end.
world game. Like,
I
open
couldn't,
games
like,
never end
I
after
was
the end.
done. I just put it on the shelf and was like, nope. I'm invested enough time in this.
I really, really, my buddy of mine who bought it, and he hasn't even started playing it yet because other things come out. I really want him to get on and play it because I really want to do some of the online stuff with the bounty hunting and the stuff like
Yeah.
that. Dude, we got to play that.
I mean,
That's gonna be
it's
awesome.
okay. I played with some of my friends online, and it's about what you expect, pretty much, like GTA. So.
Yeah, that's fine. That's what I want. I want GTA, but I want it in the Wild
Yeah,
West.
but with GTA comes a lot of crappy people, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's
So
all right. I can put up with crappy people.
it's at least
Couple of
interesting.
If
online
you
play.
played Modern Warfare for any amount of time online, you can
There
put
we
up with crappy people.
Black Ops. Yep.
So there you go. Skyrim and Breath of the Wild are 2 that I also put on there. Skyrim, I've bought that game and played it on so many different systems, it's ridiculous. I started out on PC and then played it on.
Oh man,
played it
that
on.
reminds me. I saw a tweet or something today of like, I feel old. The Skyrim came out like 9, 7, 6, 4, 2, or however, whatever the actual years are
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah, so the only thing I haven't played it on VR yet. I have not played the VR version of it, but I played every other version of it.
Did you play like the Alexa version or whatever that they put out as a joke?
Yeah, I did. I played the Alexa version for a little while. It was interesting. Sorry, Alexa, cancel. I forgot I got an echo right up here to turn my lights on and off. I totally forgot. She was just about ready to start playing it if I hadn't. And the last one is the Assassin's Creed series, Odyssey, Origin, or Black Flag. Those are
Was Black Flag still this decade? Was it like
Yep.
2010? Or
Yeah,
something?
it was
Yeah,
20
Because it even came out on Wii U.
yeah, it came out on
PS3,
PS3, PS4, so it came out.
It's
right
just
when
there's
PS4.
so many Assassin's Creed games that come out that it just feels like it should be older than that for
Yeah,
some reason.
it
I don't
really
know why.
does. I mean, Odyssey is awesome. I love Odyssey, which I still need to finish it as well. See, I've got all these games I need to finish, but
That's one game I still need to finish also.
Yeah.
Odyssey, I've like 100% of the main game and DLC. Like that game is awesome.
and I
love
bought all the DLC when it was on sale at Christmas.
Yeah,
'Cause
me
it's
too.
like I'm
Yeah, I went to
gonna
gold.
finish playing that game. So that may be the game that I
it. Yeah, both expansions for that are worth playing.
Yeah.
Like,
that may be what I hop into. So, but that those are mine, and I could have went on and on and on. There was so many more games. Like I said, I almost put Persona on there. I almost put a couple of the Yakuza games on there. I almost put, there were so many games that I could have put on there, but it was like, okay, I really need to skim it down to 8, and even then I kind of cheated because it was like, okay, I put 3 of them in this one, 2 of them in that one, 2 of them in that one, 3 of them in But, I could have went on and on and on and on. So, Nathaniel, go ahead, since you're next on the list.
Yeah.
Go for it.
I mean, I was doing it individual games, so I'd listed
Yeah.
separate games from series and ended up not having any 2 games from the series in my list because I had, I think, 30 or so games that I started with. And then at that point, I was like, I need to stop adding to this list so I can whittle
Yeah.
it down because I was like just throwing them in for consideration to start with.
Well, there's one game that you put on your list that I actually had on mine, and I forgot to write it down in the notes. So, but go ahead.
I was like, I had to make some tough cuts out of here, but I actually ranked mine, so I'm going to go kind of backwards from 10. 10 was a tie with Divinity Original Sin 2 and Nier Automata.
Yeah.
Both of those games I love for completely kind of different reasons, but like they're really, really good. Like all of the games on my list I picked because they either impacted me a whole lot or just like I loved playing that game so much that I just couldn't get enough of it at the time when I went through and just like ate it all up. Or just played tons of it over a long time. 9, Life is Strange, the original one.
Yep.
Because that game like super impacted me a lot.
I was thinking about putting that online.
Yeah, that was one that I cut. I mean, that was
such a beautiful game.
Yeah.
Like it's Life is Strange 2 is also really good, but I think it suffers a little that where the first one was a little stronger in that you had recurring characters through the whole thing. Where you didn't do that in Life is Strange 2, so because it was a different kind of story. It was still really good, but not making this list. Number 8, God of War on PlayStation 4. That game is so much fun to play. It's got a really cool story. It looks great, and that throwing that axe man is so much fun. Horizon Zero Dawn, number 7 on the list. Number 6, Rocket League. 5, Uncharted 4. Number 4, Red Dead Redemption, the first one, because it's infinitely better than 2. Even though I still like 2 a lot, it's just so much better because they made a game. They didn't make a simulation game. I don't know. It's just like I like Red Dead Redemption 2 a lot. After playing it a lot, it grew on me. Whereas Red Dead Redemption 1 is just like instantly hooked. From the beginning. I played so much of that game. The zombie expansion, like I played every inch of that whole thing online and off.
The thing that was great about, and if Nikki hears me say this, she's going to kill me. But the great thing about Red Dead Redemption when it came out was the 3 days before that game come out, I lost my job. And that was when I was looking for a job for a couple months. So literally, I played that game from start to finish in like 4 days. I was up till 4 o'clock in the morning every day.
Lot of game.
Yeah, buddy. I mean, I played that thing straight through. I'd get up in the morning, let the dogs out, do a little job hunting, then hop on Xbox and play till 5 o'clock in the morning, and go back and do the same thing for 4 or 5 days straight. I could not put that game down.
I was playing that game for weeks because I would play like all the single player stuff, and I was like collecting all the plants and doing all the hunts and everything in there. Same thing online with my friends and doing all of like the hideouts online and getting into random gunfights online. You had like in Mexico the fort with the cannons in it that literally was
fun.
Nothing there. It wasn't a hideout. It's just like people like to congregate there and try to hold it for no reason. And so you're like shooting anyone who comes near with the cannons. And it was just so much fun and kind of just emerging gameplay. So a lot of that. Number 3 on my list is Dark Souls. And I picked Dark Souls 1 because it has just insanely good spiderweb interconnected level design where like everything connects. You see a thing over here and eventually you get it and you look back and see where you came from and unlocking all the shortcuts and just like kind of running in like any Souls kind of game, like you run into an area that you're just like headbutting against, and then eventually you figure out, oh, okay, this is how I do it better. I was doing it stupid, and I figured your way through it. And like, hey, I defeated it. That game was just really, really amazing. Like all the ones that came after it, and even ones that I didn't put on my list, like Hollow Knight or something, that were like riffing on what Souls did. Dark Souls, like Demon Souls came before it, but Dark Souls, I think they perfected it.
Yeah, you're right.
Going back, it's got its like weird jank to it compared to what they did at 2 and 3 eventually, but like that game was just it's got that magic, that it factor that some of the other ones, like they're really good, but just that one has a little extra to it. Number 2 on my list, Witcher 3. So that's another game that I've played like 100% of the main game, and I did the expansions, 100% of all of those. I just can't get enough of that world because, like, ever since Witcher 1 and then Witcher 2 and then Witcher 3, it just like eat up that entire just world. So, like, read all the books, watched the Netflix series now. Just like anything Witcher, I'm probably just gonna be all over. But that game especially is really, really good, fun to play. And then number 1 on my list which you could probably put as like one of the number one games of the decade, no matter what way you're kind of slicing it.
Roll.
Minecraft.
Yeah.
Minecraft is just like one of the biggest games, one of the biggest, most watched games, one of the most influential games. Like so many just like weird like games trying to steal its thunder.
You still play a lot of it?
I still play it every once in a while, boot it up. Like whenever they've done a few updates and stuff, I watch it a lot on YouTube. There's several people that like play on like servers and stuff that I watch.
You definitely play a lot of it. So I was just curious.
Yeah,
I don't play it as much as I used to because a lot of the friends I used to play with like moved on to other things or just whatever. So I'll just jump into like my own single player stuff every once in a while.
And you know what the funny thing
around.
is still one of the articles that that Nathaniel wrote is still one of to this day.
Yeah, it shows up.
Shows up every month as the number one view.
I must have hit the magic SEO on that article, man.
Like, I guess
everybody just wants to keep seeing that old thing.
I mean, that thing's like 5 years old, and it's still every couple months will be like, "What? Well, there's the number one view on the site this month." Is that old 5-year-old article that Nathaniel wrote about Minecraft?
But yeah, like all of these games, I've put tons of time in, but Minecraft by far has the absolute most amount of time that I've put into it, and I haven't even a clue how much I've put in between the different platforms I've played it. Like, there's just no way I could keep track. But even
I can imagine.
I wouldn't even be surprised if I've hit 1,000 hours in that game, with just how much stuff I was playing it for a long time, for a while there. And if you include just like the time I'm watching like Minecraft content or something, it's definitely up there.
Right.
But I just like it because it's a sandbox game, so you can do all sorts of different things in it. And if you're in the mood to play, like just build something, you can do that. If you want to go wandering around, you can do that. If you want to play like a map someone's made, you can do that. You want to jump on a server and play mini games with people, you can do that. Like there's so many things within Minecraft you can do. It's a game that unless like something weird happens, I will continue revisiting because for me, I love the Lego factor. Yeah. So like every time they have a few updates and they've added a bunch of new blocks, play with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Nothing wrong with that.
So it's like it scratches that itch, and it's a good game for like, just playing to just chill if you want to. It's not like it's definitely not a Dark Souls game.
No, it's not. All right, Eric, go. You're next. You're next on the list.
All right. Well, I also have a list a little bit after this too. So this took me a little bit, and I kept revising it because I was thinking about it. But let's start with number one. I'll pick The Last of Us because that game impacted me on tons of different levels. One of the only games I've beaten more than twice.
That was a hard cut for me. I almost had that on my list.
It wasn't even on my list because I never finished
it because
I don't like it.
It's all good. It's all good. To each their own.
It was an easy one to keep on my list.
I like I said, played a lot of it. I own it. I own like the collector's edition for the one for PS3 and things like that. So, The Witcher 3. It's one of the only as people know on the show, I'm not a big RPG guy, and it's one of the only RPGs I've finished in the last 10 years, probably. But I can tell you something.
It's a good one to finish. If you're going to finish one RPG in 10 years, that's the one to finish.
Well, it's not the only one, but I'm saying
one
of the only ones. I'd say this too is Fallout 4 and The Witcher 3. I got them at pretty much the same time, and I wasn't really interested in The Witcher 3 until I watched like some videos, and I think maybe one of you guys had mentioned, "Oh, you'd probably like this." Watch some videos online. I'm like, "Oh, it looks cool. It's like it's action. Look, it's easy to play." And once I started playing The Witcher 3, I didn't go back to Fallout 4 for months. I quit, and I bought all the DLC for The Witcher 3, and I was super engrossed in the story. Then introduced my wife to the show on Netflix, and I think I owned 2 and 1 on GOG. I think they were free at one time, and I'm meaning to try 2.
They go free pretty often over there. So
yeah, one is the one people say it's the most, probably the one I wouldn't like.
You would not like 1 because it is like straight up old school computer RPG, completely on the system. It does not hold up as well as 2 does.
RPGs back in the day for PC, Baldur's Gate, Fallout, things like that. So, I mean,
maybe
I'll give it a shot, see what it's like.
Maybe, but it's a tougher one than 2 for sure.
I kind of broke the rule. I did a little bit, put the series here. I did the Fallout series next in order. In order I do New Vegas 3 and then 4. 76 is not going to be on there because that game just annoys me a lot. My buddy was talking about that the other day. He's like, "Oh, 76, you should play it again." I'm like, I'm like, yeah, it's updated and ready to go on my PC. But I'm like,
You mean that trash fire that's had Bethesda just like running
And the
down
funny thing is, he bought it on. He had a capable gaming PC, and he bought it on PS4. And he's like, I had to buy PlayStation Plus. I never used PlayStation Plus. I'm like, you could have played it on PC, and you didn't have to play any. But anyway, yeah, New Vegas is fantastic. It is the only one I beat more than once. I have like a second playthrough in 3 and 4. I've never 4 I beat once, finished most of the DLC, and then I couldn't get back into it. Number 4 is an interesting choice. Refaction Gorilla, which I played.
I love that game. I didn't even think about it.
A ton of online. Like I beat it. I have it on Switch as well.
Yep, I do too.
But for PS3, we got a bunch of us would play it on Cheap Ass Gamer. A big group of us played it for more than a year, every Thursday, for at least 2 hours, and we did everything.
Yeah.
So that was one of those games where
I wonder
really-
what would have happened if that game had gotten super popular, because it's different than other multiplayer out there that's just got all the fun little like quirks with it, and hitting people with that hammer, man, is so good.
smashing things.
Yeah.
We'd have giant rocket battles or load up with a little the little mines, remote mines you can set off. We'd have lots of dumb fun with that. Just screw around. Let's see what else. Dishonored series. I put on the cut with two going first, then 1.
It's another one I would have put on my list because I love those games so
Death of
much.
an Outsider, I have not finished, but I'm going to get it. I beat once, and I didn't really want to go back and play it again. But 2 is I will definitely go back and play again. But great series, fantastic. Just very engrossing for me. Kept me interested. I like it where the game has a good story and there's enough action. I can try different things. Mix it up, right? You can just kill everything.
Yeah, Dishonored, and then Deus Ex. I was thinking of putting on my list and ended up cutting them out.
Deus Ex, I'll get to that in a second. God of War, of course, fantastic game. It is a decent time commitment, probably 30 hours or so. But I was engrossed with the story and everything. I'm like, this is so different from the other God of War games, and just Kratos like shaping the rest of his story. Spider-Man, of course, that's easily one of the best games I've played in the last couple of years. Along with God of War. Uncharted 4, I really liked it. I felt it was a good way to kind of wrap things up.
That was on my list, and I forgot to add it on there. So,
Red Dead Redemption 1 and 2, 1 being before 2, simply because I probably played way more 1's multiplayer with a pretty good group of friends, and 2, I enjoyed 2. I enjoyed the story and everything, but I just think that 1 was just one of those games where it sucked me in a little bit more. And number 10, I had to go back and forth for a little bit. I went with the Walking Dead series and Wolf Among Us.
Yeah, Wolf Among Us was almost fun too.
I needed the last little bit of the Walking Dead, but the first couple seasons, I remember being really emotionally invested in the game, and I was like, whoa! Did not know a game could be this toy with my if you're playing Life is Strange, something similar. Wolf Among Us is really good too, and I'm glad they're making a sequel. All right, quickly, the games that I had to slash off my list. Outer Worlds, I've been talking about the game a lot. Really like it. Prey, surprisingly made. I was really thinking about how I like that game a lot, and I really
Prey is great.
Play. And not very many people are going to agree with this. I really like BioShock 2. Yeah. And I like Infinite as well, even though lots of people did not like Infinite. I enjoyed the story, and I enjoyed the twist at the end.
Infinite is my favorite.
Infinite is my favorite too, and I almost had it on the list. I almost
after maybe the critics didn't like Infinite, didn't like the way things went. But at the end, I remember finishing the game being like, "Whoa, now that's a twist!" And the last where everything connects, I was like,
yeah.
Holy
I
cow.
love that game. I love the music in it, all the cover songs that they had hidden in there. I love that.
Such a masterfully crafted game.
Oh yeah.
I put Horizon Zero Dawn. I only played a couple hours. Definitely deserves to be on a list because I will get back to that. Divinity: Original Sin. Put a lot of time into that. Mass Effect 2. That was another one of the only Western RPGs I played in the last 10 years. But I'd never played any of the other Mass Effect games. I'd never played 1. Didn't have a 360. Fired up 2 because when I was writing for Guzex, we got a copy for review, and I was blown away. I thought it was a great game, except for in that game I screwed myself in the end because I didn't really know about the relationships and the companions, and in the end you make those decisions, and I was like, whoops. In the end, I ended up with one of the crappy people I never used. That was great. A little bit. Oh, Deus Ex: Mankind Divided. I like Human Revolution, but Mankind Divided, such a good game.
Yeah, that was a good one too.
So good.
They're both really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're both really fun. There's so many good games. It's just nuts. And I'm sure there's like 5 or 6 that I missed. And there's
Oh,
plenty
yeah.
on your guys' list where I'm like, oh yeah, that game. I should go back and finish that.
Yeah.
And that is it.
All right, Dennis. It's your show.
All right, the pressure's on. I had to think about this. Like, I've been thinking about this the last couple of days, and I still couldn't even really get it together until like shortly before we started recording, because I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna, rather than sitting here and think about it, what are the first couple of games that come to mind that, you know, you don't really question it. If they come to your mind right away, it's because you think about it a lot, right? They're memorable. They're something that, you know, they kind of stuck with you, right? So, so even though, you know, especially now that we've been talking, especially like your guys' lists have been absolutely incredible, and I think, you know, I want to put a lot of that stuff in my own list as well. And but you know, it's one of those things where I was just like, I can't go back. I just gotta, let me just leave it as it is. You know, it's you know, with tens of thousands of incredible games that have come out in the last 10 years, you know, it really is hard to make a list like this. It would have been, you know, easier to just do something like, you know, top 10 RPGs, or, you know, top 10 platformers, so on and so forth, you know. But to, you know, so long as you are a form of interactive entertainment, you qualify, you know. And it's just like, oh my God, has a lot to take in. So
it's hard enough to do 1 year, let alone 10.
Right.
I know. Yeah, it's true. So, but these are the ones, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, I'm just gonna go down the list, and, you know, you know, probably as I'm talking about 1 or 2 of them, I'll probably be like, why did I actually put that on the list? But not to say it's not deserving, but it's like, that's when, you know, once you start going through them, you know, that's when things start hitting you like, oh no, that should have been on the top 10. That should have been on the top 10, you know. But yeah, just to start it off, Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. You know, Breath of the Wild was just, to me, you know, and I don't use the term, you know, loosely. It really is, to me, a absolute masterpiece that is a 10 out of 10 game for me. And just everything about it, from the art direction to the music to the sheer depth of the world to the gameplay and the puzzles, they changed a lot for sure. You know, I know, you know, the game was very kind of the overall consensus is the game's brilliant, but for longtime Zelda fans especially, it was very polarizing, right? Because you had people who were just like, well, where are my dungeons? Where are my, you know, where are my crazy puzzles? You know, stuff like that. Where are my, you know, stuff like that. Where are my temples? And this was, you know, you've heard it time and time again, but this was kind of Nintendo kind of doing their version of just like, what if we, you know, take everything that made Witcher so absolutely phenomenal and one of a kind, and, you know, put it in this kind of Zelda universe, you know. And yeah, just everything about it. It's, you know, putting hundreds of hours into that game, and it's a game that's so impactful. You know, I still see tweets about it to this day, you know, videos of people doing crazy stuff, crazy stunts now at this point. I mean, people, because the physics in that game and what you can do in terms of interaction is fantastic. And it's so deep that people are still figuring stuff out, right? Especially for people who are like, wanna speed run a massive game like that, with how open and free it is, just seeing people doing their best to just kind of pretty much you know, go to, you know, Hyrule Castle, and you know, beating Calamity again, and then of course having to defeat all the other, you know, the other beasts as well, just because, you know, you have to, if you don't do them beforehand, you have to do them at the castle. So those are mandatory fights, and having, you know, just seeing them do it completely naked because they don't bother with gear, right? So it's just the moment, you know, the moment Link wakes up, he's just like, all right, this is all I need. All right, you know, so long as I'm protecting what I need to protect, then we're good to go. But it's fantastic, everything about that game, and yeah, just such a beautiful piece of work. So yeah, but yeah, Breath of the Wild is on there. Next on the list is The Last of Us. Last of Us is one of those games that I've played time and time again, you know, from beginning to end. And then even when I'm not playing it, you know, I'm watching playthroughs of it on YouTube, you know, and it's a game that I constantly go back to. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with Retro Replay at all, but
Yep.
You know, so Troy Baker and Nolan North, two very prolific voice actors. They, they're playing. They actually just finished it, and I've been watching all of it as well, and it's been a real treat, really, to kind of see them. Two people who participated in that game, actually play through it, and that's it gives me another reason to see that game again. So
The fun thing they've done with that is they've brought in like guests for different episodes
Yes.
of the game and stuff, and they give some fun anecdotes while you're watching someone play a game. So
it's
Yeah.
amazing.
it's
I
a
love
little
it.
bit more than just a straight let's play.
Right.
Absolutely, yeah. It's like a great. It's like a super entertaining behind the scenes. I love behind the scenes on anything. That's like my favorite part of like a DVD. If I were to ever
Yeah.
buy one, that's where I go to right away. But that definitely is like really exciting to kind of see people's own perspectives on certain points of the of game development and their kind of story behind getting in touch with the characters, and even just for the developers, like getting in Neil Druckmann's head and kind of seeing his perspective on things as well, kind of directing and really kind of bringing the game together. So but Last of Us is absolutely brilliant. It's made me laugh, it's made me cry, it's made me think deeply about morals and things like that. And to say I'm excited for Last of Us Part 2 would be an understatement. That is a game I've been do I think we need it? No, not really. Am I happy we're getting it? Of course.
I was gonna say, will you buy it? Yeah.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, no, absolutely. That's I've been trying to get better about what I feel needs to absolutely be bought day one, and that is non-negotiable. Last of Us Part 2 is a day one purchase. So,
Definitely
but yeah. So Last of Us is the next one on the list. After that, and these are in no particular order. But it's kind of hard to rank them, let alone have them listed for me. So,
Right.
but next after Last of Us is it is Overwatch. Overwatch. I mean, I'm wearing a Divas shirt right now. It's one of those games that has been. I've been playing since day one. The game came out in 2016, June of 2016, and
It doesn't seem like it's been that long.
it really hasn't been. It's crazy how time flies. And since then, we've gotten tons of new characters, and you've seen the property grow. The property itself is $1 billion property, Overwatch, and so it's huge now, especially its influence on esports, and seeing that grow, seeing the Overwatch League get an official team, seeing the beautiful stage they have, and it's. Watching it grow and really having the impact that it's had has really been amazing, especially someone who's been there since day one. And I'm not really something that still fascinates me about Overwatch to this day is the fact that like I'm not big on shooters. I'm not. It's especially a multiplayer only shooter, because a lot of them to me are the same, where it's just like, it's here's something you're going to play for a year before we shut the servers down, and then we're going to microtransaction the hell out of it, and then it's just going to be we're just going to ruin this game, thanks to investors and stuff. Overwatch to me has always been pure since day one, and they've had a certain signature and focus. The art direction is brilliant, all the characters are super charismatic, and they all kind of represent not only some theme but someone, with the diverse backgrounds they all have. And I remember, I think it was early in 2018. I remember actually one of the devs on Overwatch actually for some reason, I don't know why, started following me. And so when I noticed that, I sent them a very, very long, basically a letter, not just a message. It was a letter, just kind of, thanking them, especially for, it's weird to say for a game, because it's up to you, whenever you want to play it. But, especially at that particular point, early 2018, where things, that particular point in my life, things were, weren't too good. So, it was one of those things where Overwatch was kind of, as corny as it sounds, it was something I could go to, something I could, be happy at, feel safe at, and the community has always been super nice to me. So, yeah, I just sent them a long letter, not only regarding them, but Blizzard as a whole. And yeah, just Overwatch has just been, long story short, not to just, drag it on, but it's a very impactful game. And so it absolutely had to be, especially if it's done. And for me, opening my eyes a little bit too, in what a proper respected multiplayer shooter could be versus just like, microtransactions everywhere. It's basically a glorified, because a lot of these games that I see now, especially the free-to-play ones on console, they're all glorified mobile games, and they just drive me crazy. And I wasn't, even before Overwatch came out, I knew it was going to be different. I had a feeling, and but I'm just glad that it never really took a turn for the worse. And here we are, years and years later, still with my love still, as high as it was on day one. So I'm very, very thankful for that. So because I do not tolerate games that kind of abuse the system, if you will. So I would have left a long time ago if it started doing that. So but yeah, after that it is Pokemon X and Y. I've got my clock time on that thing must be well over 500 hours at this point. Yeah, it's bad. I need help, but we won't talk about that. But Pokemon X and Y were fantastic. It was the generational leap that I think I wanted for a long time in Pokemon. You saw these, we would go, Pokemon had this thing for a long time where it was very good at doing what it did. It's one of those situations where don't fix what's not broken, but it wasn't until X and Y, I feel, well, even Diamond and Pearl kind of did this as well, where I was like, okay, that's next gen hardware right there, at least for that particular series, it was, Diamond and Pearl was when we started introducing the kind of 3D environments. Not all of it was 3D, but it was a nice kind of mix, right? Of almost like a 2.5D, if you will. And but X and Y was the first pure, like everything's 3D. We even got rid of sprites. So that was mind blowing to me at the time. The battles basically being like a handheld Pokemon Stadium at that point. And from all the new Pokemon, and it was just feature rich with a great world. Kalos had a great anime behind it too. It actually looked like an anime. I mean, Pokemon's always had its own kind of distinct art style, but X and Y was the first time where things really felt like grown up, I guess, in terms of its anime and just its overall art direction. So yeah, I mean, the anime got really dark at points, and not just dark as in someone left their Charmander outside and it's raining. Oh God, but X and Y did things of just yo, this place is gonna explode. You guys leave. I'm gonna sacrifice my life. I was like, oh my God, okay. It got real brutal sometimes. Yeah. But everything just kind of surrounding X and Y, from the game to the cards, to the new Pokemon, to the anime, to everything that just kind of, and that's when I got back, hugely into competitive Pokemon as well. And I just haven't been competitive since, because to me, since then, just really hasn't been, the same, I guess. But we won't get too much into that. But yeah, X and Y would be on my list, just because as a longtime Pokemon fan, that was that time of just oh wow, okay, this is kind of that Pokemon game I've always wanted, and the one that felt like a true generational leap here. So it was pretty groundbreaking for the series. So and you could sit down finally on a bench. After that would be yet another RPG on the 3DS, which is Bravely Default. So Bravely Default, I spent, I fully completed that game in just under, probably around 120 hours, just on a little bit, maybe a little bit more. It was definitely less than 150 though. But Bravely Default from beginning to end was absolutely fantastic, other than a couple, one or two chapters by the end where I just wanted to, I wanted to snap my 3DS in half. And if you look at a lot of forums and stuff, a lot of people, that was a breaking point for a lot of people. There's just one part of the game where a lot of people were just this is as far as I go. This is as far as I go. But, after putting so many hours in that game, I was just dude, I've made it this far. The finish line's right there. You know what I mean? The finish line's right there. I have to beat it. I have to beat it. And while it was a grueling, arduous process, I'm very happy that I stuck with it because it did end up becoming one of my favorite RPGs of all time. And really going back to that kind of old school Final Fantasy, but on a grander scale. You know, it was like, here's, you know, if you guys remember like Final Fantasy IV remake on the DS, how they did a couple of those remakes, like 3 and 4 in particular on DS, that, but on a bigger scale and a much more, something that was much more in depth with memorable characters and a fantastic story, soundtrack, especially. The soundtrack still plays in my head from time to time. And, yeah, no, it's just absolutely brilliant. And, you can imagine my excitement when, Bravely Default 2 got announced, over, I think during the TGAs, was it, when it got announced?
I think so.
That sounds about right. But yeah, and I love Project Octopath Traveler as well, because it kind of took the foundation of that and, grew it into something more as well. So, but yeah, Bravely Default is absolutely fantastic, and that is on the list. After that is a game that has spawned many memes and many laughs, which is Portal 2.
Yep.
And
That almost made my list.
Yeah,
The first one made more memes than 2, I would say, but yeah, Portal 2 was close to being on my list at some.
Yeah, it was close to mine too.
Yeah, Portal 2, I mean, I've spent countless hours in that game. I've watched a million speedruns. I've attempted to speedrun it myself, and that game is just constant fun. Whether you're playing for the first time, the 5th time, or the 200th time, that game just never... the dialogue's so good. The puzzles are incredibly intricate and phenomenal. I think it's the perfect length. Even though it is on the shorter side of things, but I do think that just because of the pacing makes it so good.
And if you play on PC, there's an infinite amount of user-created puzzles.
Oh my god, that's the best part. Yeah. And I would never play a Valve game outside of PC anyway. So
I like it when you got it on PS3. It came with a free copy for Steam.
Yep.
Yes.
That was the very first. I had just started my game journalism career, and I wrote to Valve, sent them an email. We both live in the same state. Hey, found your game. Send me a copy to review. So I was like, yes.
Very nice.
And it is a great game. I played co-op with somebody. I think he played on PC and I played on PS3. It was good. Very entertaining. So much fun.
Yeah, Portal's just nonstop fun, 1 and 2 really, but two in particular just really holds a special place in my heart. And Portal's just, I mean, it's one of those games that doesn't really need an explanation. It's just
right.
Portal. It's great, and it's one of those games that was so groundbreaking that we've seen countless inspired by games, games that look at Portal as their kind of template for
Bridge Constructor Portal. That's a cool
of course.
Now that Valve is kind of maybe making games again, I want Portal VR so that everyone can get even great.
Oh my god, even more sick.
The Valve engine makes me sick without VR, so good lord, I can only imagine.
Can we get you to try Half-Life Alyx when it comes?
No. As much as I would love to play it, I would really, really, really love to play it, but when Half-Life makes me sick, it's like, no, I can't. I'm not even going to attempt that one.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, there you go. You cut out there for a minute. We couldn't hear you.
Yeah, sorry. Portal, I remember playing it for the first time. It did make me dizzy, and thank God I was sitting down, because it was one of those things where even in my seat, I'm like, oh Jesus, it's disorienting because you put a portal there, and then you put a portal there, and then you all of a sudden you walk out through there, but depending on how you put it, you might flip around really quickly as you're coming out of it. Oh my God.
I don't know if I just have a strong constitution or what. I've never had any motion sickness or anything like that from games, so I don't know. Portal didn't throw me for a loop at the time. Portal 2 was fine, so I don't know what it is.
It rarely happens to me, but Portal was one of those games, especially the first one. By the time Portal 2 came out, it wasn't an issue, but Portal 1, I remember playing it for the first time, and I was very disoriented at first. So after Portal 2 is a game that I still think about it to this day, which is why it's on this list, and it has a score that I still listen to over and over again. And as far as I know, I don't know if it's still, as of today, the only video game score to win this award, but at the time it was the first. The soundtrack for Journey is the first game to ever win a Grammy.
Yeah.
The score for that game did win a Grammy, and I don't know if it's still the only one since then. But yeah, that's pretty substantial.
Yeah.
And the music was such a big part of the the, no pun intended, but the actual journey from beginning to end of that game. And it was only about 2 hours, 2.5 hours, but that's all you really needed for a game like that. It was something that stuck with you, still sticks with you. And I bought that game time and time and time again, and I have played it time and time and time again, and it still remains to me one of the most memorable, impacting games.
Yeah. The thing I think about Journey, other than the music, is the color, the way that they use color in that game.
Yes.
Yeah. And that one almost made my list too. It was one of the ones that got cut. But it was up there.
There are many.
Yeah, there were so many.
Interestingly, that was, now that I think about it, that game, which you wouldn't expect an indie game to do this, especially at the time, because now indies have so many platforms for exposure, but at the time that was the game outside of Metal Gear Solid 4 to make me buy a PS3. That was the system seller for me, was Journey, really. And then of course, all of the other that game company games like Flower, of course, and whatnot. So, but yeah, no, Journey is such a beautiful game. And then of course the ending, when when everything happens with the character. But not only that, it was like after the ending, when you start figuring out, like, hey, the people, all those other people that you saw on the journey with you, those were actually real people. Those were other players. Players, and your only form of communication was that kind of light. Like, you're trying made this kind of light that kind of signaled, I guess, some sort of interaction with someone else if you needed help getting up to another platform or something. Just so it's said a lot by saying very little, and I always appreciate anything that does that, whether it be a movie or a game. That's why I like Grizz so much too. Grizz is beautiful. So
yeah, they have similar kind of vibe.
They do, yeah.
Just how they tell the story.
Exactly, and that's why I loved Grizz so much too. I was very tempted to put Grizz on this list, despite it being so new. But I can see that game being a game that I still think about it. So a year later, so it's, just a beautiful game. After Journey would be Super Mario Galaxy 2. I had to make sure that this one was actually in the last decade.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, but it was like, it was, wasn't it? Yeah.
It came out in 2011, I believe. So like just right there on the edge. Mario Galaxy 2 is, one of those games where I loved Mario Galaxy 1 because, just the design, the idea of, like, let's take Mario but put it out there in the space, but Mario Galaxy 2 in particular, from the level designs to the music, Mario Galaxy, especially the first one, was the first to introduce a fully orchestrated soundtrack. I think not only just for Mario, but for Nintendo games, period. So like a live orchestra, and it really made a world's difference. And just such a, Mario games have always been pretty consistent, especially like the mainline Mario games, but Galaxy 2 especially, and of course Galaxy before it, really did something special at the time. It was really a transitional period of like, oh, okay, this is where he's going to start growing.
Like a modern Mario game. Thing is, I'm pretty sure I have copies of both, and I have maybe played them for 10 minutes apiece. I'm always interested. I know I'm probably missing out on something fantastic. I know we talk about it a lot. So.
Yeah. They're wonderful games. When they both ended up coming to Wii U, I bought them again. I was like, well, there you go. Now I can have them right there, just ready to go at any point. But yeah, Mario Galaxy 2. And then I put Ultimate on here, even though this kind of qualifies for any Smash Brothers. But yeah, Smash Brothers Ultimate is on here. Smash Brothers has always been a game I can go back to at any point, whether I'm at somebody's house, or I'm just kind of playing at my own, at my own leisure. Smash Brothers has always been just a stupid amount of fun, and it's always exciting to see new characters, and really it just being a celebration of video games. Not only the fact that it's a great fighting game, but just the fact that it is just a really great celebration of the medium and all these characters that have really impacted games throughout the years. So it's always exciting to kind of see this party happen in Smash Brothers. But yeah, and then after that, Bayonetta 2. Bayonetta 2.
Yeah,
That one almost made my
really
list
good.
too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Bayonetta 2 is. I'll never forget when I beat that game for the first time, and I was just in awe. I had to put that massive gamepad down for a second, which I was very happy about because my hands were getting tired. And the just putting it down and just being like, just sitting there, looking at the TV, just going, that was amazing. And I loved Bayonetta 1, but you don't realize how great a sequel is until you go back and play the previous one that you thought was great, and then you're just like, oh, that was okay at best. That's how
I don't
good
know. I
Bayonetta
still
2
put
was.
1 and 2 about. 2 I like about it is it ties back into 1 a lot, so that they're like a nice circle. They like both fit together really well.
Sure.
Yeah.
They're both fantastic games, but for me in particular, Bayonetta 2 really triumphed over Bayonetta 1, and but Bayonetta 1, I will say, I think has the better soundtrack.
Yes.
I remember buying that soundtrack, and 3 discs, or maybe more, 5, 4, 5, something like that. It was huge.
Fly Me to the
It was
Moon
huge.
is the better main soundtrack song, in my opinion, than what was
Absolutely.
the 1 and 2? Oh wait, I can't remember.
Yeah,
That's why
I don't remember what the hell the 1 and 2 was.
But
so.
1, it's always just like the Fly Me to the Moon part, just like
Immediate.
I can instantly hear it in my head. I'm like, yep, that's Bayonetta.
It's so good. It's so good. And the soundtracks, but even outside of that, they're so distinct. They have a flavor to them. The soundtracks, and they're so good. And then Bayonetta, of course, herself as a character, she's. I love what she stands for. I love her confidence. I love her wittiness. I love, basically just being, another one of Kamiya's, brainchilds of just we're just gonna have this sassy character like Dante, like Beautiful Joe, so on and so forth. Of they're strong and they know it, and they're not afraid. They're prideful. They're, if they'll do what they can to take the challenges head on, and they're going to look amazing doing it, because the hack and slash format of it is amazing. And that's one thing Platinum's always kind of excelled at, is just how good they are at making this flashy, beautiful game that is easily accessible but can be intricate if you want them to as well. But yeah, no, Bayonetta 2's on there just because from beginning to end, and all the boss fights, all the character designs and everything, it was just super memorable. And when that's the only port for Switch where I was like, I absolutely need that day one. Where one of those there's a lot of ports from Wii U that I'm glad came to Switch, that I did end up getting, but Bayonetta 1 and 2.
The picture, it's over there. I ordered mine from Japan the minute it was when I was like, must order it.
Right. Bayonetta 1 and 2 was one of those where I was just like, oh no, I need that day one. That's non-negotiable.
Are you getting the Steelbox version of Bayonetta and Vanquish that's coming out on Xbox One next week?
I'm thinking about it. The only reason why I haven't is because owning an Xbox One X, I have the 360 versions and they upscale them, and they look super clean already. They're by default already HD, so it's I don't know how different these are gonna be when I can just if you're playing on a 1S, I can see, or PC even, but on a 1X where it just kind of natively emulates it to the best possible visual fidelity.
Yeah, well, but it ran so poorly on the PlayStation 3. It didn't run as good on PlayStation 3 as it did.
Oh yeah, it was a mess.
Yeah, it was a mess. So those type of people get it on PlayStation 4. So
Man, there's a company that needs to like let a game go to PC. Is Nintendo needs Bayonetta 2 to go on PC because
Yeah.
the Bayonetta 1 port on PC is so good.
Yeah.
I want
It's
2
really
there as
smooth.
well because it'd be so good.
Yeah. They probably have to go through a lot of discussions with Sega to do that.
Sega wouldn't care.
Yeah, Sega
I
would.
mean,
Yeah,
they've put like other stuff
out.
out, so they
Yeah.
would, if it was up to them, they'd be like, sure, let's put Bayonetta 2
Yeah.
out. But-
They want all the money they can get. So
We'll see how that Sonic movie does next month.
Anyway, go on. What was your next game? I'm just going to graze right over that. It's like I don't even want to
So,
talk about that.
So my number one game of the decade is without a doubt, because I think it's just even more so than Breath of the Wild, just an absolute masterpiece. It's got to, and I'm sure everyone agrees with me. It's got to be Anthem. Yeah, Anthem.
Now, Anthem could be a game of the decade list for big failures, maybe.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. No, that would be like if we were doing like a Razzies version of, you know.
Yeah.
I saw your stream where you went beep bop bop and uninstalled it right on the end.
I've never uninstalled a game so quick before in my life. I was.
Do you remember a certain somebody that tweeted you when you said you bought it for $5 and I said, well, why don't you just give the $5 to me because you would have been better off.
Right. You know what? I'm not gonna lie. Like I was having an okay time with it, and then like after 5 hours, it's really started going downhill. And then by the time I was reaching the 8 hour, 9 hour mark, I was like, I don't even respect myself that much, and even then, I respect myself too much to just keep it going for Anthem. I was like, no way. So and dealing with all the issues that I had dealt with, that point where I had uninstalled it, that was. No, we crossed that line. I was like, no, we're done here. Never again. That disc now is as good as it's a coaster at this point. So
I bought it digitally, so there you go.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I couldn't even take it out of my game system and throw it away. It was just delete it and go on with it. So
yeah, I mean if and I had bought this before I upgraded my computer too, so otherwise I probably would have just played it through like Origin Access.
Yeah. Just
played it through that way. But yeah, I bought it, so I was like, well, I have the disc, I may as well use it. But yeah, no, you're right. It's never again.
The sad thing is if you go on the PlayStation.com in 2019 wrap up and it gives you your top 3 games, Anthem is my number 1 game. Because we played 47 hours of it online with friends. We just did it with friends. And it was like, what am I doing? This is insane. But yeah, so unfortunately, my top 3 list on there is on PlayStation is very embarrassing because Anthem is number 1.
Yeah. Now I think about it, one of the top 3 that I had on mine was Days Gone, and that was done by accident because the game kept breaking. And the game just wouldn't end also. I was just like, can you end already? And then it finally ended after like 65 hours. And I was just like, man, that game was like, did not need to be this long. And it also did not need to be open world at all. That game could have been perfectly fine as if it was linear. That game the open world was not that good. Yeah. Anyways, but that's a conversation for another time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it was a great game. But yeah, and then I just threw in some bonuses in here, just like a game that I put hundreds of hours into, especially on Wii U. Not as much on Switch, but definitely still qualifies is Mario Kart 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mario Kart 8 is the Mario Kart game that I've always wanted. The last great one to me was Double Dash. But one thing that I've always kind of had a problem with Mario Kart was they always just felt too slow. And then by the time the Wii U version came out, or Mario Kart 8, the 60 frames and then how gorgeous that game was, and then like all the cool, like the anti-gravity mechanics, and then the stages were beautiful, and then like the DLC was so well done, and everything about that game I just constantly played it, and then I played it way too much to the point where I got globally ranked, and I was like, okay, this is this some people may see this as an achievement, but that was kind of like a point where I was just like, oof, okay, thank you for letting me know.
A little too much, thank you.
Yeah, we're done here. But Mario Kart 8 is just absolutely fantastic. And then of course, pick any game from after that, any game from the Shin Megami Tensei series, they're all fantastic RPGs to me.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
whether we're talking Devil Survivor or 4 Apocalypse, or the one that came out recently, which is a remake of the one on DS, Strange Journey Redux, and then of course you have Soul Hackers on the port that was on 3DS as well. That was digital only, and there's so many, but they're all so fantastic.
Yeah.
And there's just a consistency to them being constantly great, and I'm just I still want to know where the hell Shin Megami Tensei 5 is on Switch.
They've not said anything about that.
No, but don't worry, we'll get about 4 more different spin-offs of Persona 5 before we get to that.
Yeah, that's true.
Jesus Christ. Anyways, but yeah, no, that kind of does it for my.
Cool. All right. Well,
I have a couple more I just wanted to throw out there that didn't get mentioned on anybody's list from my giant blob. I had Warframe. I think that's probably the best example of like free-to-play live service type of game that's been out this decade.
That game came back in a big way.
Live service is pretty much only this decade, but
Well, yeah, but came out and was
Still.
like, and then they did a complete 180, and and it became such a
well, it's like fascinating the story behind it too, because they basically like put it out because they had to, and they got enough people like signing up that they could continue to make it, and then like at a certain point it just hit to where they could just do whatever they want with it, and they've just constantly. The thing about Warframe that I think is interesting is they constantly keep changing it and adding stuff in there that you wouldn't have expected, or just like this big crazy features that like a lot of the other like live service games they don't take as many risks as what Warframe seems to have done, and they've managed to keep the thing going for like what 5, 6 something 7 years. Something I forget how long old it is now.
Beginning of PS4, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was out.
Maybe about before that.
It was before that. It was on PC first.
Yeah.
And then it came out on PS4, I think, shortly later. I don't know. I wasn't in there at the beginning, so I'm not.
Yeah, it was PC first. I remember it coming out on PC.
But yeah, like that game's really cool. They've done some cool stuff with it and continue to do so. Terraria is a like small little fun indie game that I played a ton of, and Stardew Valley, another fun indie game that I played way too much time in.
Wow, Warframe was 2013. Wow.
Yeah, like it's been out for a long time.
Yeah.
And then Subnautica is another kind of fun game that I've mentioned before. So most everything else on my list, somebody else has mentioned, like Portal 2 and other things that we've gone through already. So
it was hard. It was hard just to pick out a few games,
Oh yeah.
It was once I started thinking about it, it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, that did come out in the past 10 years. Oh, so did that one. Oh, that one did too. Oh man, I forgot about that one. It's like, holy crap. There's been a lot of games come out in the past 10 years. So be interesting to see what comes out in the next 10 years. So,
I'm sure there'll be a lot of good ones and a lot of bad ones, just like we've had since video games have been invented.
I am sure.
We'll see if Star Citizen finally comes out.
Yeah, really.
No, Star Citizen's only going to be just a bunch of random modules. and kickstarted like digital spaceships that are like $1 bajillion to buy. Like,
yeah, exactly.
That's all Star Citizen will ever be, I think.
You're probably right. All right, guys.
Gaming.
Well, I think we're going to call that a show. It was a little longer, but we haven't done one in a little while. So, and we don't know. I don't know when we'll do our next one. So it may be a couple of weeks before we do another.
There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, there's a lot. Maybe hopefully by the next time we do one, there'll be even more to talk about. Maybe we'll have some new system stuff, but we'll see. But yeah. All right, guys. Well, thanks a lot for hanging out with us and following us on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter at GL_podcast. That way you'll know when we go live. I like to try to tweet it out, several hours early to let everybody know exactly what's going on. So that's the easiest way to find out when the next show will be. So, all right, guys. Well, once again, thanks a lot for listening, and we will catch you all next time.
Later.
See ya.